The Queens of Spice podcast is created for adult audiences only. Our show contains cursing, vulgar content, dark humor, descriptions of sexual acts and desires, and is not suitable for listeners under the age of 18. Some episodes also contain themes which may be triggering for listeners. Please take care of yourself.
I'm sorry that I told everyone that you had sex with a hot dog.
Welcome to the Queens of Spice podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Rogge here with my two BFFs, Ash and Jack. Hi, guys.
Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you guys doing?
I have a request.
Yeah.
What's your request?
Whoa, already?
Yep.
That was fast.
Can you refer to me as Dr. Ctaco from now on?
Sorry. I'm here. Let me do that again. Excuse me. Dr. Ctaco. Just Dr. Ctaco, right? Is that all? Yeah. Okay.
Dr. Ctaco.
I'm here with my two BFFs, Dr. Ctaco and Detective Jacqueline.
Can I be Detective Guacamole?
You can be Detective Guacamole. Absolutely.
Oh my God, we go together.
Yeah.
Dr. Ctaco and the Guac.
Detective Guacamole, the Guac. So, in case you didn't realize, we're reading How to Vex a Vampire today, written by Alice Winters. Getting into the vampire-only detective unit was the easy part. What's going to be more difficult is dealing with Finn's new partner, an ancient vampire who keeps threatening to eat him. The unit has never had a human in it, and Marcus, or as Finn likes to call him, Fangy McFangface, would really prefer to keep it that way. He's grumpy, short-tempered, and broody, but Finn has a way with words and knows he's starting to like him, even if he swears he's not. But what Marcus doesn't know is that Finn didn't join the unit because he was tired of being a homicide detective. He joined because there is someone after him. They've already taken enough from Finn, and he's afraid that they're going to take all of him if he doesn't find someone to help. That's all Marcus was supposed to be, but now he's so much more, and Finn can't imagine his life without him. The moment the pesky human walked through the door, Marcus knew he had to get rid of him. He's charming, and almost everybody else instantly loves him, but he doesn't understand how risky it is being a part of this unit as a human. But Marcus gets to know the stubborn man. He learns that perhaps he's not as naive as he once thought, and maybe he's what Marcus needed to realize there's more to life than just work and his dog. A group arises who is threatening to disrupt the alliance between the humans and the vampires, but Finn is the one who shows Marcus how strong the alliance can be and reminds him why it's worth protecting. When threats hit closer to home, Marcus realizes he would do anything for Finn because he's brought so much joy to his life. So Jacqueline, welcome to the vampire-related crime series.
Okay.
And I picked this book specifically for you because I know how much you like crime.
I do love crime.
Solving it and sometimes committing it.
So this is book one of the VRC vampire-related crime series. The second book is How to Elude a Vampire. The third is How to Lure a Hunter, and then How to Save a Human, and then How to Defy I can't say this word.
Divide?
How to Defy a Vampire.
Oh, defy.
I was like, where are you reading this? I can help you, but
No helping.
there's no help for you.
So we launch into this book, and the first scene is like Finn showing up. So Finn's a human.
Okay.
Marcus is the vampire in question, the other main character. We show up, and Finn is like weaseling his way onto this case. So there's like a murder that happened, and a murder that happened, and
a murder. Suspicious?
Suspicious. Trey suspicious. And
Don't be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
I was not expecting that, but I loved it.
French laughter. That was good. Yeah.
Woof. Sorry. La 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 pizza.
Nous sommes
Lay
late
for me. Nous sommes petits. We très petits.
I would like to apologize to about half of our listeners
We ensemble.
who are in Montreal. We start the book with Finn weaseling his way into this crime scene that he's not supposed to be at because he works homicide. And the homicide is separate. Homicide for humans is separate from the vampire related crimes unit. Like they're in different buildings because the vampires in this universe, like they have an equality act, I think it's called, or something like that, where like humans and vampires, like they're not allowed to feed off of humans. So if like, especially in homicide situations, like you could trigger vampires and it would be bad if they're around humans and shit like this.
Situations.
Yeah,
like in death.
Yes, like in death. And when they're working with evidence and shit like this. Anyway, they keep them in separate areas. And humans are not supposed to work in vampire related crimes. Full stop. And so
it's dangerous.
it's super dangerous. And we're about to find out why. So Finn like is weaseling his way onto this crime scene because he wants to weasel his way into the VRC.
Every time you say the word weasel, that's what I call my dog.
Really?
Yeah, Wesley Weaselface.
That's cute.
So I'm like, oh, dog. Weaselface.
Oh, Finn, he's cutie.
Oh, Finn Weaselface.
Finn's just little. They never.
Little.
It's funny because they never say how tall he is, but I think they always call him short, and I think the best relation I can get is when he jokes to Marcus, who's like 6'2". He's like, I'm only like 2 inches shorter than you. Marcus just laughs at him because he's far shorter than that.
Everything about Finn's person reminds me of Edward Elric.
Oh my God, yes.
I was just waiting this entire book to have him say like how much he hates milk.
Amazing. You're absolutely right.
I know.
That's a Full Metal Alchemist reference for those playing the home game, and Jacqueline because she's looking at me.
Alrighty.
So,
anyway.
He's also a short, pesky human. It's good.
But there's the other.
Yes,
part of
there
it
are
too.
other parts too, which we're going to learn about later. So he shows up to this crime scene, and you get introduced to Marcus as well, who's the grumpy vampire boy.
Grumpy grump. Man,
Yeah, and he calls him out immediately, be like, "You're not supposed to be here." And he's like, "Actually, I was called in on this." He's like, "Actually, you weren't. That's a lie." And they have some nice, cute little banter, and then Finn.
Oh,
Adorable. And then so Finn is about to leave and he's like, yeah, you might want to check under that sofa because there's something under there and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he like basically.
Because he's so short that he can see under it. Is that right?
No.
Oh.
No, he just saw some scratch marks on the floor and like obviously a weapon had been like
But also,
chucked under the
they
sofa.
were like, you can't be new to this unit because we just hired that guy.
Yes. And Finn like, eyeballs the guy and he's like, that guy's way too young to be working on this unit.
This isn't going to work.
And this is not going to work out for you guys. But he's like, okay, bye, I'm out of here then. And as soon as he starts to leave, there's a human analyst that got called in on this job because they were short-staffed or something. And so the analyst is like lifting the couch up with somebody else to move it, and he like cuts his hand on something, and the young vampire that's there instantly loses his mind and goes to try to eat the guy.
Nom 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 nom
nom. So
bitey.
And then
okay, so they eat the people?
I mean, I'm metaphorically like
he wants to drink his blood.
Okay.
yes,
as vampires.
nom 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 nom. They use the term "eat" in this a lot, like especially the other vampire that's in the unit. Like
Carrison.
Oh, is it? Did you listen to the audiobook?
No.
Okay. It looks like Carson, I guess. Yeah, Carson. Carson? Oh, Carson makes sense.
Carsonov.
Yeah, Alexei Karsonov. Third book. He's in the third book.
I don't know.
Yeah, he is.
He was my favorite character.
He's a good character. He's in one of the books in the
Also,
future.
he's Russian.
He is Russian. He's very Russian.
Yes.
And he calls, what does he call him?
Oh, it translates to little nuisance.
Yes, it does. And then it translates to nuisance. And then later he adds a word in front of it that is
nuisance.
Our nuisance. Yeah. Because anyway, it's funny. Because anyway.
Jacqueline's like, what?
So the young guy gets kicked off the squad. And then of course Finn is like, looks like you need to hire somebody. How interesting. And
he's also tight with like the guy who runs the
yeah.
VCR.
So the guy that Chief Brooks
VRC, sorry,
is the guy that the VCR. Way to show your age.
Just rewind it. It's fine.
So be kind, rewind. So Chief Brooks is the guy you're talking about, and he's the head of the unit. And what are you laughing at, Ash?
I looked at the page really quickly with the notes on it, and I thought it said Daddy Chief of the VRC.
Deputy.
Yeah, deputy. I get it now.
He's not really a daddy. I mean, he's a father-like character, but he's definitely not a daddy.
No, my brain went, Daddy.
Daddy VCR. So he gets it in with Chief Brooks, who knows him from way back when.
You get a spanking if you don't rewind.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Oh my god.
This is why I don't drink when we record episodes anymore, because I don't need to.
You don't need to. It's fine.
It
It just slows you down is all it
Please,
does.
for the love of God, stop drinking when we do episodes.
So Chief Brooks gives him a chance at a temporary position because he's like, Finn is gunning to get into this unit, and so he's going to give him a chance because they need somebody. And also, he's very good at his job. He's a very good homicide detective.
And he's charismatic.
He's charismatic. And unfortunately, he's going to be Marcus's partner, which Marcus is not happy about.
Fortunately, unfortunately, sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. We love
Enemies to lovers.
We love an enemies to lovers.
I always love when Jacqueline knows, like, she drops the
She's
knowledge
learning.
bomb.
Right?
I'm
love
so
it.
proud of you.
We love to see it.
Like these
Good girl.
MMCs. Oh my god. So fun.
Good girl.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you.
So Finn gets hired on in a temporary position. He signs all his paperwork and everything, hunky dory. And then we jump to like the next day or something. They're going to investigate another crime scene that is related to this crime scene.
Another murder.
And I should mention, so like we're gonna be building a case here. So the lady, yeah, Jacqueline, the eyeballs, Jacqueline, the lady.
We're not building the case. They're building the case.
The case is being built, and I'm gonna tell you about it.
Do they have a whiteboard?
I
don't think so.
I don't think they do actually. They have a lot of papers and laptops and shit, and
All
tablets
right.
and whatever.
But there's no like central area where everyone can see
There's
what's
a
going
bullpen.
on.
There's a meeting room and a bullpen.
They must have a bulletin board or something. They just don't talk about it. Okay,
Yeah.
carry
We'll
on.
just assume
fair.
for Jacqueline's sanity that there's a whiteboard and a cork board in there for them to put their
Oh,
information
there's a
on.
double whiteboard and a corkboard.
Yeah, there you go.
At least, yeah, and with multiple colored markers.
Yeah,
Color coordinated.
Yeah,
obviously.
And string.
and there's post-it notes everywhere.
Organized post-it notes.
Very organized.
It's all
They're
very
color
organized.
coordinated as
Are
well.
they like the fully sticky ones or just the sticky on the top?
Oh, I think the
first?
fully sticky ones.
Yeah, 'cause
those
you
are the
don't want
best.
those flying around.
No.
Few knives sticking information into the Martin
Oh, the
spots.
corkboard? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Sure.
Put a knife in there.
Seems irresponsible.
It's a little
Listen,
excessive.
Detective Guac. Is this your
Reporting for duty.
this your bullpen? No.
So
That's apparently my detective voice. Reporting for duty. It's Detective Guac here.
You sound like Joey Deschanel.
Jesus.
Oh no.
Okay, so the first crime scene, the lady who was killed was a young vampire. She was, so when I say young vampire, she herself was like 30 something, but she was recently turned, like in the last 5
Are you
years
talking
or
about
something.
the teacher or the?
So the teacher is who I'm talking about. So this is the lady. She was a teacher at one of the universities, and she was an advocate for like human vampire relations, basically, and like advocacy in general between the species.
Everybody can be friends.
Yeah. And I guess a little background information of vampires here.
How did you feel about them, Rachel?
Yeah, I have opinions about vampires. In this book, vampires, like about 100 years ago, they passed like the Equity Act for vampires. So vampires are not allowed to eat from humans, and they are treated the same across the spectrum. So like, you know, like normal humans, basically, they all have the same rights.
There's also two types of vampires.
There are two types. There's the vampires who have been turned, and then there are true vampires. And true vampires were born vampires, and there's only like a handful of them in the world.
But they don't know how.
Yes, and they don't know how, and they don't remember like where they came from a lot of the time too. Like they're so ancient and old that like
They're old vampires.
yeah, super old vampires, and they all have golden eyes typically.
Yeah.
Marcus is a true vampire. We find out, and so is
suss
Finn's adoptive father. His adoptive father is Oren Wilcox.
I like Oren.
Oren's great. He's such a good character.
He reminded me of Full Metal Alchemist, Hughes.
He
reminded me of Hughes.
Ugh, my
Yeah.
heart. Anyway,
Only he didn't die. Spoiler alert.
anyway, that series gutted me as a young person.
One of the best anime series
One of the
to
best,
date.
easily. If you haven't seen Fullmetal Alchemist, just give it a watch.
Brotherhood. more
Brotherhood,
so.
yeah, it's so fucking good. Okay, vampires. As we were talking about.
Not alchemists, vampires.
So these guys have evolved. These vampires, have evolved to kind of walk around the daylight in ways. So like they still have to protect themselves and cover themselves up. And the younger they are, the harder the sun is on them, and the older they are, like the ancient, like Marcus, for example, just has to wear sunglasses and he's fine or whatever.
He's mostly just cranky.
He's mostly just a cranky boy. So you're not allowed to turn a human into a vampire anymore. So all of the vampires, I guess, statistically would be like at least 100 years old will be the youngest.
Unless somehow there's born ones happening
Okay.
that we don't know about.
So his sister, and this is an excellent point, Jacqueline, thank you. Did you read this book? Are you sure?
No.
Are you lying to me?
Go check her bedroom quick.
Oh my God. Okay, so Finn's sister, Arya, she's a Dampier, which is a half vampire, half human. So what happened is
Finn's mom's a hoe.
mother shacked up with Oren and didn't
Birth mother. Okay.
She a hoe.
She a bit of a hoe. She shacked up with Oren.
Let's
No, she is. So
She is a lady who enjoys sexual escapades to the point of maybe destructive tendencies.
she's also what was past tense a huge drug addict. So
Girl,
that's an
I'm
issue
not
too.
judging you. Okay, go ahead.
She's also deceased. So
Girl, I'm not judging your past.
so his sister's a half vampire, half human, and you're not allowed to, like, Dampiers have to be registered like when they're born, and realistically they're not supposed to even exist. So what happened was, for the first 5 years of her life, she fed off of Finn as her source of blood, and her mother kept her a secret. So
Is that like a my sister's keeper kind of crazy shit?
I've never
Kind
seen
of.
that, but I guess
Only they don't use her body parts and stuff.
But his body, is he older or younger?
he's older.
So they didn't have her to save Finn.
Or vice versa.
No.
So
I've never actually seen that movie or read the book.
I
it's a
made the
book.
mistake of watching the movie when I was pregnant, and it was not a good
oh
idea.
no, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of those movies that I have seen pieces of over the years and heard reference to, but I've never actually watched it. It's one of those.
No.
It's like, anyway,
You would hate every minute.
I'm
of it.
sure I would. Where was it? Dampiers.
Vampires.
Vampire.
Witches, werewolves, and vampires.
Thank you, Ashton.
I wish he really talked like that.
Like Kripke from the
Big Bang Theory.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
We wouldn't be friends, I don't think.
If I talked like that, you would mock the
Vicious.
fuck out of me.
Vicious. Okay, so she was unregistered for 5 years, fed off Finn in order to keep her alive, whatever. And then when it came out for some reason, I think his mother lost custody of them at one point.
Oh, they ended up
Because she was they ended up in the system, and because she was a big drug addict and whatever. And this is when they realized she was a Dampier. She got registered. They found Oren, and Oren adopted both of the kids.
That's what we judge her for, being a drug addict while having children and not putting her children first.
It's a disease, okay?
not the fact that she liked sex a lot. We support a
Some
woman.
people like drugs a lot.
I mean, I would rail a vampire. I just would never have a kid. Ugh.
I'd do both.
Why choose? No.
Why choose another? Okay.
Did you say wide shoes?
Wide shoes. Yeah, that's Jack's thing. Okay, so that's Dampiers. So basically, all of the vampires and Dampiers that are registered are allowed to, like, access this blood bank in order to support their feeding habits. And nobody actually, like, feeds off of humans. It's not a thing people do.
Did they establish if that was a sexy thing or not? Because usually it's a sexy thing.
I mean, in this case, it's a sexy thing.
I know it becomes a sexy thing, but like, was it
I
ever?
don't think it was a sexy thing when she was feeding off her
No,
brother.
I don't mean that.
They actually, Finn in this, and you'll get a vibe when we read the chapter, but, like, Finn is very fucking hilarious, and he consistently makes fun of his sister for having, like, fed off of him in the past. Like, he just takes it all in stride. It's very funny.
But in other vampire books,
That's how
Can
we
you
deal
take-
with trauma, some of us.
Yeah. Oh, this is what he does. Yeah.
bite your sister?
No, you
Oh.
cope with humor.
Yes, that's fair.
What's up?
In other vampire books, it's established that like the feeding component, like if you feed off a partner, that it's like sexy times kind of thing. Was it in this book? Was it established that that was a thing, or was it more like it was their thing?
I think it was their thing specifically. And here's the thing: is that, like, I have not read the rest of the series, and I'm probably going to go back and read the rest of them actually because I'm very interested.
Yeah.
So to your point, I'm not sure. It's not established in this book.
I just couldn't remember if it was established in this book or not.
No, I don't think they bring it up. But what Fin does mention, though, and we're getting ahead of it a bit, is that Fin was attacked at one point by a vampire. And when he was bitten by that vampire, it was very painful. And it was specifically like way more painful than it had any right to be.
Yeah.
And then later on, spoilers again, Marcus ends up feeding off him for a very specific reason. And it's not painful at all. And so that is a thing that vampires have the ability to change.
I was going to say, because it's established with the not nice vampire that he took pleasure. It was established it was he, right? He took pleasure from causing Fin pain, which is why like a lot of the things that happened.
I mean, yes and no, because we don't get an insight into what actually went through that person's mind. So we're not actually
you're getting
Finn's take on it, and Finn's take was that he liked inflicting pain.
Yeah,
not necessarily he was like getting off on it or whatever. But
it was
like
a thing.
The dude is a sadistic fuck.
Yeah.
So like
the intent was to harm.
That's right.
Yeah. So
and Marcus's intent was not to harm. So that went to a different place. So let's get back to the story. So we established we got this dead teacher who's a vampire rights, human rights activist. And she holds like classes about like vampire history and human history and stuff in the school she works at. And then she also has these like clubs on the side that like are allies for this. So that's who murder victim number 1 is. Murder number 2. We go to a cafe downtown, in the middle of downtown, broad daylight. Somebody went into this cafe and killed somebody. Another young vampire dead. And there's also a couple other victims in this one too. I think one's a human, and I think there's another vampire or something. They're kind of like tertiary. They're not really super important. So I should mention too, their detective group is Fin and Marcus, and then we have Carson and DeGray, and then we also have Lena Breyer, who's in there as well, and then we have Chief Brooks, of course, who's the head of the battle.
Daddy
Chief of the VRC.
How does one kill a vampire in this?
So it's referenced that the younger a vampire is, the easier they are to kill because they don't regenerate fast enough. Okay. So like if you shoot a vampire who's like an older vampire, and most people in this unit are older vampires specifically because they deal with homicides, and so they have to be a little more robust. And I say robust. They have to be like older in order to handle these situations in case something comes up.
Wine.
Well, but like they're also like handling blood and stuff, right?
Well, that's why that little young guy got fired.
That's why he like flipped his shit and got fired, is because he couldn't deal with it.
He couldn't deal with it.
Well, and so and Jacqueline, it's a good point to bring up because like Marcus doesn't even flinch at that. He doesn't give a like it doesn't bother him at all. And same with the other people in the crew. They don't even bat an eyelash at it. Like it's just like, okay, blood, whatever, carry on. And so the younger you are, the easier you are to kill because like you don't regenerate as fast. And so if you get shot with a bullet, like Marcus is regenerating as the bullet's even going into him, sort of thing. So he's not going to be affected by that. But if they're younger, they're not regenerating that fast. So like a bullet to the head is going to kill them.
Yeah, I think they actually specifically make reference to a bullet to the head.
They do because I think
like any bullet, it doesn't have to be like silver or whatever.
Just a bullet to the head.
And I want to say too, like we're gonna get into this because this is part of the intrigue that happens here is like things that affect vampires more are like being developed as the story continues. So to that point, crime scene, cafe, middle of downtown, broad daylight, bunch of dead vampires, couple dead humans. This crew walks in and they're going through the scene. It's been cleared by local PD. And so they're like going to do their investigation. And they roll up. They literally roll up because they drove in a car.
Vampires on Segways.
Yeah.
Badass.
I love everything about that visual.
The centaurs coming in behind them.
Amazing.
Centaurs on Segways.
I feel like the centaurs are on like roller skates.
Now I want like a centaur that has segways for legs. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my god.
Like 2 Segways.
Yeah.
Oh, That'd be hard to learn how
a
to like
segtar.
walk. Can you know when like your little giraffe is born and
Yeah.
its legs are all picture a little centaur being born and it has 2 segways and they're like going in
I think it would have to be
different
4
directions.
segways.
No, 2.
They're like little hoverboards because they're so small. No, it's 2 because
Yeah.
there's 2 wheels, right? So I'm thinking feet or wheels in this instance.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
so it's just
real
2
weird.
segways.
As a
that-
human,
yeah.
you only ride 1 segway and you
real
have
weird.
2 legs.
That's a real weird visual for me, though.
Y'all, this went into a place. Okay, let's get back on track.
I'm gonna write a story.
Thank you, Jack, and I can't wait to read.
Can you
that.
draw that, please?
You get your
I'm gonna write and illustrate a story.
comic time. Okay, so these guys roll up to the scene. Jesus, I can't get centaur segues out of my head.
Are the centaurs wearing pants?
They can if they're wearing Segway, if they have Segways.
It's more like a moo at this point.
Toga.
Centaurs and togas.
Segway centaurs and togas. Okay, so there was a murder. 3 people, they
So
died.
there was a dude named Finn. Something.
There was a murder.
Actually, I did have a real question about what we're actually talking about. This
Go ahead.
book.
Go ahead.
The blood banks
Yep.
that they're allowed to like.
I don't have any further details about the blood banks.
So-
it's just mentioned that that's a thing that's accessible.
Okay, so we don't know if it's human blood or animal or whatever.
I don't know. I think it probably is human because people donate blood. I think that's mentioned. People donate blood, they get paid for it, and then they drink it. But it's like cold. It's not fresh blood,
Right.
so it's
yeah.
like stored or whatever. And so like having fresh blood is like fresh human blood is like the
There
creme
is
de
a
la creme.
distinction
Yeah.
that ends
Yeah.
up being made. Yeah.
And they do mention that like throughout the book, we get little nuggets of it here and there.
That'd be interesting
Nuggets.
as a human to go donate blood, and they're like, "Oh, would you like this to save people's lives or to keep vampires alive?"
So
Did you get a say?
I would hope so.
I don't know. I assume those would be separate things.
I feel like you would be at different places, though.
I wonder if you could like, you know how like if you've had like a tattoo in the last 6 months, you're not allowed to donate blood, or if you're on certain medications. I wonder if the vampires could drink that kind of blood.
Okay, so they specifically say in this that vampires can't get diseases.
Oh, so they could
So
just have like cancer
anybody-
and diabetic and
Whoever.
any kind of blood.
Typically, yeah. They could.
So what about when people die? Can they drain their blood?
I don't know.
That's-
It wouldn't be fresh.
That's a moral kind of dilemma. They'd have to drain them before they die.
Well, it'd be kind of like donating organs.
I guess, but you're not pumping blood, so it would be like
they'd
stagnant
have
blood.
to be on.
Well, maybe they could like suck it up off the floor.
This is
With,
an
like, a
interesting
shot
thought
vac.
experiment, and this is an interesting thought experiment. We're gonna come back to it. Put a pin in
Okay.
it. Okay. So they roll up to the crime scene.
put a pin in it.
Put a pin in it. Put it on your little board.
Okay, I'm gonna
Pin
put a
it.
little segue pin in it.
Thank you. So they roll up to this crime scene and they're investigating whatever. And one of them opens a door in the back. And when they open the door in the back that was not opened apparently, a huge bucket of blood drops down.
Carrie style.
Carrie style. And they're just like coated in blood. And immediately
It's Finn that's coated in blood, isn't it?
it's not I think it hits more than one of them. Because I think Marcus is as well. Like it hits a couple of them and they're splash and whatever.
Yeah.
Briar like loses her mind.
Yep.
And Finn carries, actually all of them carry 2 weapons. They carry a normal gun, like a 9mm, and then they carry a trank gun that puts vampires down, like just temporarily. And so he hits her with a trank and puts her down because she's like flipping out.
Nappy time.
Yeah. And then the rest of them, like I want to say Marcus ends up getting, they have masks they wear, like when there's a lot of blood around or something, and he puts his mask on. And I think DeGray as well, like gets his mask on in time, or no, they put DeGray down as well. Or anyway,
One more person is shot.
one more, yeah, like 2 of them are tranked, and Marcus is fine or whatever. And then of course, like they need to shut it all down and get all their get back to the unit and get their clothes off and stuff.
Strip.
Well, and so Finn in the meantime is also like trying to clean stuff up because like it's an overpowering smell, and it's like more potent than usual because even Marcus is like losing his fucking mind a little bit, and it's not a thing that Marcus would normally lose his mind about
Because he's old as fuck.
because he's old as dirt. And so
And we don't know why.
He's
That's
old
right.
as
No.
fuck.
But it could be like a higher red cell count or something like that.
there could be something amiss to the blood. Is what we're getting at.
It's a higher red cell count. They might have mono. Who knows?
Who knows? And so this
I think that would be white blood cells because aren't those the ones
Yes,
that
it
fight
is.
infections?
I went to art school.
I'm a doctor.
I'm the doctor. You're the detective. Listen to
Detective.
Dr. Ctaco.
Dr. Ctaco, what color are those blood cells?
Red.
Perfect, thank you.
Wait, what? Which blood cells?
I don't know.
Mono blood cells
Yeah.
or white?
Okay, perfect. Thank you for clarifying. So they go back to the office. They go in the back way because the entire unit can smell this blood and they need to be careful. And they get up to the showers and whatever. And so this is where we get a little background on Fin specifically. So the vampires all get showered off and changed into new clothes and whatever. And then they go for a debrief. And then Fin is kind of like humming around, like he's not going to jump in the showers with these guys yet. He's kind of like poking around. And then Brooks comes in, Chief Brooks comes in and is like facilitating the stuff and getting different clothes. Well, he's like, trying to get this under control. And then when everyone leaves, Fin gets Brooke to lock the door to help him shower. Because this is where you find out that Fin has a fake leg and a fake arm. And so his prostheses have to come off when he's showering because they're like special prostheses.
Edward Elric.
He's Edward Elric.
Otherwise, they would rust, probably.
Actually,
No, they're magic.
They're not magic.
Oh
my god!
They're science is what they are.
Yeah, they're like super ridiculous. Like anyway, we'll talk about it shortly. But you
So
get
there's
this.
science, but they can't get wet.
Yeah, they're super high tech.
They're like almost wired into his nerves kind of
yes.
thing.
So he actually can articulate his fingers and stuff. Like they're very high tech, and he gets like feedback and stuff like this on them. So like they're very they're specially designed for him.
What
and
if
it was
rains?
he's wearing clothes.
gloves.
He wears gloves on his hands,
He's
and then
wearing
and he has clothes on.
clothes.
Well, he's not gonna fall in a river.
What
You know what I
if
mean?
he did? Then he would have to get all new science limbs.
There's a part later that anyway we'll talk about later.
He takes his limbs off.
So this is where you get the background and Brooks knows him, and the reason Brooks knows him is because Brooke was the one who responded to the accident that he was in that made him lose his limbs. And so they have a background, and and he kept up with him over the years. And so when Fin was I think he was 16, or 15, I think, he was in this car accident that killed his mother, and he survived. And this is where he lost his limbs. And so that's all we get right now as the audience. So we got this unreliable narrator thing going on here because there's some more shit to unpack later on. Whatever, we get all cleaned up, we go debrief. And I want to say during that altercation, Marcus almost bit Fin, but Fin talked him down off of it. And so he had a little nick on his neck. And that was as far as it went. He didn't actually bite him, but he almost bit him. And so Fin, because he's a piece of shit, he uses this against Mark. Well, I'm facetiously, he's a piece of shit.
Facetiously.
He uses this to leverage Marcus to take him on a date, because Fin is about this guy real hard, but in a joking way. But really he is. But really he's not. But he is.
I think he just likes to make him feel uncomfortable.
He really does. It's one of my favorite things about Fin is how uncomfortable he makes everyone all the time. And well, it's just really
like
funny.
me.
It's wonderful. I love him. He's great.
Have you watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Kind of reminds me of Jake.
9-9. So he blackmails Marcus to take him on a date. And so Marcus acquiesces and takes him on a date. And begrudgingly. So Marcus takes him on a date. He picks him up in his car. And he takes him to a vampire restaurant.
It should also be stated that at this point, Marcus is kind of committed to the fact that he's going to try and make Fin obscenely uncomfortable.
Yes.
And basically chase him off.
100%. Marcus is back against the wall, just what is this child human doing? He's 29. He's not a child, but to Marcus he is. And
to us, he's kind of like a child too.
fair.
Nah, 29's okay.
It's only 9 years younger than me.
That's
I wouldn't date me at 29 though. 29-year-old Rachel's a mess. Anyway, so
she says as though 38-year-old Rachel is so much better.
all out, shots fired. Okay,
Look, I don't claim to be any better.
totally fair. So they go on this date. Marcus takes him to a vampire restaurant
That sells blood.
only serves blood-related items.
Yeah.
I mean, checks out.
Checks out.
Wait, do they eat other things? Do
True
they just have,
vampires
okay.
can.
So true vampires can eat a bit of food, and they'll be fine. Young vampires generally can't.
Yeah.
Like they'll get sick and throw it up or whatever.
Yeah, because
But Marcus can actually stomach food if he chooses.
Because that's kind of like the tipping point for Finn, where he's like, hey, you tasted that.
Mm-hmm. So there's this scene is amazing.
Wait, he takes Finn. Okay, I get it now.
Okay.
I was like, that's not weird. Why wouldn't they? But yeah, I forgot he
Finn's
was
human.
human.
Because Finn's a human,
Yep.
and Finn eats human food, and he doesn't drink blood.
So,
And
his dietary choices are
his choices at this restaurant are like grilled cheese sandwich or
SpaghettiOs.
SpaghettiOs.
Zoodles?
That's nice.
SpaghettiOs.
I think it's SpaghettiOs. I remember
a type of zoodle.
I cringed horribly because I cannot stand that stuff.
Unless it's the Batman ones, but they don't make
Still
anymore.
can't. There's some
Oh, but I like the little meatballs.
You would.
meaty boys.
What does that mean?
You know what that means. So
You like
Finn,
little balls.
Finn has a great, amazing time getting the waitress to explain what the grilled cheese is because she's a vampire and has no idea anything about human food.
It's so uncomfortable.
And it's so uncomfortable and hilarious, and I love every fucking second of it. So he gets his grilled cheese. He eats it. It's a grilled cheese with a Kraft single, this bog standard.
Which she has to like explain to him.
Yeah,
too.
because he's like, what is in the grilled cheese exactly? And she goes back and finds out, and then comes back and and she's like, it's a grilled cheese sandwich with a Kraft American cheese slice, and that's all she's got.
And it's clearly like, this is horrible.
Yeah, it's pretty bog standard. I mean, have you had a bag grilled cheese though? I don't know that I've ever had. Like maybe if you burn it, it's bad. But like an actual grilled cheese, basic
grilled cheese,
still pretty good.
So good.
Still really good.
Was it white bread?
Probably.
Yeah.
You got to use white bread for them. Just,
Do ya?
I mean, there's
Unless
just a lot
it's
of
fancy
sugar.
bread.
Oh, like sourdough?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, rock a sourdough.
Oh, ever put brie on a grilled cheese?
That sounds amazing.
Monterey
Do
Jack.
it.
Listen, put 10 cheeses on it. I'm happy. They surprisingly have a good date, and Marcus is like kind of.
Finn doesn't hate it.
And Marcus is just like laughing at him because this is ridiculous. All of it's ridiculous, and Marcus is like, you're ridiculous. All of this is crazy. So that's fine. Ridiculous. And then when he takes him home, they make a joke about kicking him out of his car and whatever, and like, oh, if I'll slow down to like 30 miles an hour, you can jump out. What ends up happening is that Marcus accidentally locks his keys in the car. And Finn has to take him to his house. Like, Finn has to take Marcus back to Marcus's house.
Yep.
To get his spare keys. And so they
But
do
his
that.
house keys are in his car.
And his house keys are in the car. So Finn ends up like climbing through one of the back windows and whatever. And as soon as he climbs through the back windows, he meets his new best friend, Artemis, who's an Irish wolfhound.
Doggy.
He's the most beautiful doggo.
Do they have the big floppy ears?
Yes.
What?
They have floppy ears.
They have wiry hair.
But
Yeah.
like, are their ears like?
Oh, they're not super long.
Oh,
but they
I'm thinking
are-
of bloodhounds.
You're thinking bloodhounds, yeah. They become best friends, and Marcus is very, very sour about this because it took him weeks for Artemis to open up to him and be friendly with him.
But
and he's
also-
immediately best friends with Finn.
But also he's like, yeah, no, he told me he hates you anyway, so.
Constantly, the entire book, there's so much back and forth about like, yeah, my dog told me he hates you. And
Yeah,
Finn's
he
like,
wants me to
oh,
eat
but
you."
we're best friends, and we love him. And he calls him Artie, and it's really funny.
His name is not Artie.
It's like, but that's what he responds to, so it is now. And so he gets his keys, everything gets hunky dory. Finn makes several jokes about keeping his dog forever, of course, because they're best friends.
And stealing people's dogs is the thing you do.
That's
apparently.
what one does. So then we get to like the next day, they're on a case. So they came across they were like shortlisting people who would be involved, who could be involved with that first murder with a teacher. And they were like cross-referencing. Yeah, they were cross-referencing like, oh gosh, it was like people who were in this class versus people who were in this group and like trying to find out their alibis for that night and all this jazz. And so they come across this dude named Grady. And so they go to like, it was just like, there's a lot of boxes ticked that made him a suspect, and they, in amongst a couple other people. And so they went to go talk to Grady, and he wasn't around, but his roommate let them in and whatever. And so they were like going through his stuff, and then Finn pulls up I think it's a piece of paper or something out of the garbage. Yeah. And it has like a schedule, like a work schedule on it, and then like a name or something. And so they end up at this club because like the owner had texted him to do some work or something. Anyway, there was a correlation here. And so they end up at this club investigating to see where Grady is. At the club, they find this laptop that has a bunch of names and numbers and stuff
In the office.
and they end up finding Grady's cell phone number, and they try to contact him to like pretend that they're the employer to get him to come in and stuff to like entrap him.
Ask
sort of
if he
thing.
can work tonight.
Yeah, and so there was, trying to do some detective-y stuff. And then someone's like coming down the hallway, so they jump out the window.
They were doing detective-y stuff, and then they jumped out the window.
Yeah, Detective Guac. They jumped out the window.
Sneaky, sneaky.
So Lard help us.
Larry Tundren, Jesus.
Larry Tundren. So they end up tracking the cell phone number or something to a location, Grady's cell phone number, and so they end up at this like apartment where he was staying, and Fin again finds something like a half printed ticket that didn't print right for this event or something that was going on. And, And so this concert that was going on, and so like he like kind of he does this fancy detective stuff that I could totally see Jacqueline doing, because it's like, okay, this thing is happening at 4 p.m. and I know it's a concert, so like let's look at all these places in this area and find out which concerts are happening at 4 p.m. And they just went through the whole list. It was great. Yeah, it was like the cross referencing.
You guys go to this one, I'll go to this one.
Yeah, and so they split because there's two it could be, and then they find out that it's this one, and then anyway, it's great. I should mention too, the club they went to investigate was a human only club.
Ooh.
And that's important because it's going to come back up later.
And Marcus had to use his vampire magic to like repress his vampire aura so that he could get in, and they wouldn't be like, you're a vampire.
Because there's this like thing they do where they can intimidate people using their aura.
Yeah, because that's the first thing he does to Finn is trying to make him pee himself.
Yes, and they make I think it was one of the roommates or something. Anyway, they brought somebody in for questioning, and basically Marcus makes the guy pee himself.
Yeah.
But he's actually trying to make Finn pee himself, and Finn's just like, this is hilarious. I grew up with vampires. This is just funny.
Yeah.
This is not affecting me
Try
at all.
harder.
Try harder. Adorable. Oh, you're
I'm
trying.
not peeing.
Yeah, but the other guy's like, I just peed a little bit. It's very funny.
I'm not touching you.
And of course, all the other vampires, like especially Brooks, is picking up on this like, why? What are you doing? Like, poor Finn. Like, he's just a human. Leave him alone. And he's just little.
Except for Carson, who's like, shut up, I'm going to eat you.
I love Carson.
Me too.
So we're this concert. They find the concert, where it's going to happen.
Singing
they have
stuff
Grady's seat
happens.
number. They get in contact with the venue to like get them in there and whatever. And they go up to, they like, do the pincer maneuver where they come from two sides. And Grady's seat is empty. And they're like, what the fuck?
I was like, what?
No, pincer or something this way.
Krabobster?
No, I know you can't see what I'm doing when I'm gesturing. Yeah, the kerbobster. So from the
Seeing
outside.
doesn't help.
It's still confusing.
So there's this big kerfuffle. And
Kerfuffle.
there's a kerfuffle. It's a technical term.
It's a fuffle of curves.
So the concert that's happening is there's the lead singer is a vampire.
Vampire, yeah.
And it's like a mixed group of vampires and humans at this concert. Basically what happens is like Grady grabs somebody in the audience and slits their throat in front of this vampire. But at the same time that's happening, like some pyrotechnics go off and this like snow looking stuff is falling from the sky. All the vampires just start losing their fucking minds.
Spoiler alert, it's not snow.
It's not snow.
I guess it's not
It's
really
white
spoiler.
blood cells. No?
Yes.
This is too relevant. I hate it. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, you're wrong, but you're not wrong. It's the stuff you think is white
You're a
blood
variety of correct, but I don't want to validate it. I just don't. Anyway.
What? Really?
Yeah, I don't like validating
I don't
you,
like it.
so
Stop.
just no.
Everyone, like, they start losing their minds. They go into, like, crisis mode here. They try to get the sprinklers on in order to, like, dissipate this stuff. And all the vampires are, like, all trying to bite people and kill people and stuff. And there's this, like... And not to mention, Grady started recording this, which is going to come back later. And he's recording this, like, because the lead singer went down and grabbed the woman who, like, had her throat slit and started, like, trying to eat her.
As one does.
And, of course, Grady's,
Why
like,
waste
recording
food?
this. And so it's like, okay, so you're obviously trying to pinning vampires and humans against each other for some reason. And then we have this, like, drug or whatever it is that's, like, like making the vampires, like, crazed about blood. And so we have these two elements, like, pinning the humans and vampires against each other again. And making the humans look like victims, of course. We get everything under control. Finn is, like, hurt in the middle of this. Like, a vampire, like, slams into him and, like, he hurts his leg or something.
His army thing doesn't
He hurts
work.
his arm and his leg, I think. But
And he
his
can't get
his arm stops working.
And
basically.
he can't get it to disengage. That's the big problem.
That's right, because he has these, like, cuffs over his over his like stumps where it connects, and then
Like
so
pressure.
are you saying that his clothes don't protect him from the rain?
no,
it
it's not
was-
the rain. He
it-
gets tackled by a vampire.
It was like crushed.
Yeah, it was an impact,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and they're supposed to release, but it broke the release mechanism.
I see.
Anyway, so
It
he gets,
wasn't the rain.
it's not the rain. So everything gets sorted out. They round up all the vampires. They calm everyone down. They get it all contained. Of course, this is gonna hit the media. It's gonna be a whole thing.
Finn's all like, I'm fine. I don't
Finn's
need
like,
to go
I'm
see a
fine,
doctor."
whatever. And then of
Brooks
course,
is like,
yeah, Brooks is like, you're going to see Watson, who's his doctor, right now.
And then Church is like, Marcus Church is like, I will take him.
And they're like, no, you have to stay here and deal with the shit. And he's like, okay. So he stays here and deals with the shit.
I will do the thing.
And then, so we get the scene with like Finn and Watson, his doctor. And this is where we get the information about his like specialized prosthesis and how they work and that kind of stuff. And you get a little bit more of Finn's backstory and like how when he was like 15, he was like confined to a wheelchair and like there was like very little hope he's going to walk again. And like they ended up working to get these prostheses and they're like super like researchy and it's not
Researchy.
what's the word I'm looking
Science.
for? Science. They're sciencey. It's
They're
Experimental.
they're experimental. Thank you, Jacqueline. Thanks for being my brain today.
Did you just say experimental or
Experimental.
experiment?
Experimental.
They're spearmint.
They're
It's
spearmint
fine.
flavored. So
Lick them.
So this is where you get that information about like it was a super high risk maneuver to do it. A lot of people wouldn't succeed in it, but like he worked really hard and blah 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 blah.
And it shouldn't have gone as well as it did because he was human.
That's right. And there was a lot of complications and whatever. But it took him like basically 5 years to get his life back together to a point where he was a functional person again, even using his new prosthesis. So
I mean, he did better than me. I'm still trying to figure out how to be a functional human.
normal human. No prosthesis necessary. You also get a little bit of the insecurity that Finn has around his prosthesis because when he doesn't have them nearby, he feels incredibly vulnerable and unsafe. But then he also doesn't want people to look at him differently when he does have them. So that's why he keeps them hidden and doesn't really like you don't even find out until well into the story that this is a thing. Like we're probably like a third through the book and this is where it comes up really. You get like an inklings of it here and there because like I want to say in that first scene at the cafe or the second scene at the cafe where Briar bites him, she bites his fake arm, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, she bit you!" But I was like, "No, she didn't. She's fine. Like I'm fine. Like not a scratch on me. No big deal."
She bit my watch.
Yeah, she bit my watch. Of course, the joke is like, "I'm just really good watch." She's like, "Yeah, it's super expensive, actually."
And very experimental.
Actually, it's the first scene is when you get your first glimpse of it because his leg's bothering him.
He just so this is the thing. Every so often you'll get this like he has a very, very subtle limp
Yeah.
and nobody really picks up on it per se. And Marcus even says like if I wasn't looking for it, I wouldn't have noticed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like when he goes to bed at night, he's supposed to take them off and sometimes he doesn't, and so they get really sore and he's just like you get these like little inklings here and there.
Yeah, like when he went back to the car, he like paused for a minute to like rub at his leg before he. So like you don't even know at that point, but you're like, oh,
Like there's something
something's
going
on.
Yeah. So then Marcus is the one that goes and picks him up
Yes,
because he's getting very protective of him. And especially after this shit show because like he basically was the quick thinker to be like turn all the sprinklers on to get this out of here and like let's do damage control and let's do all this stuff. And so like he was so in control in this situation that Marcus is finding like he's paying attention to like, oh,
He's
you're-
competent.
You're not useless. Like
Yeah.
holy shit. And then
You're not like regular humans.
literally. And
Not
then
like Detective Guac.
well and there's
Hey.
and then there's a few other things they pick up too, like how he's so fast at aiming and these kind of things. And like, so like he's very, like he's got an eagle eye basically when he's trying to like take down vampires who are incredibly fast.
Yeah.
And Marcus picks up on that. He's like, how the hell did you do that? Like,
To the point that he accuses him of having vampire blood.
yeah,
or
like it's a
something.
whole thing. And
Well, his sister has a half vampire, so he must have like ginger blood, kind of, you know.
Ginger blood.
yeah, like gingers.
Like I'm not a ginger, but I have ginger blood. So like vampire blood.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
If I had like super
Ashton's looking
fast-
weird, but I totally understand what you're saying. It's fine.
I know.
So, okay, so Marcus picks him up at Watson's, and you get this like thing.
Wait, who's Watson again?
Watson is
The doctor.
Finn's doctor,
Right,
his specialty doctor.
His special doctor.
And Marcus
his special friend.
brings his dog with him.
Aww,
To cheer
'cause
him
he
up.
knows they're best friends.
Well, he knows that Finn is like going through it because when he doesn't have when he can't use his prosthesis, it gets him in a state. And
he doesn't
Finn,
know that he has the prosthesis.
he does.
until
This is
now.
where he's learning it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where we're finding out about it. And so this is where Church like does the flip sort of thing. And Marcus, he does the flip from like you're just a bullshit annoying human to like, oh, mine. And so
mine.
he doesn't. So he loses his arm.
This is where he becomes a seagull.
Gobble gobble.
That's
Oh
a
wait, no,
turkey.
no, I meant like I meant like he's gonna go anyway.
Gobble gobble.
Happy Thanksgiving.
I'm a seagull. I'm not sure if y'all knew, but we eat seagull for Thanksgiving dinner up here in Nova Scotia.
Seagulls gobble things down.
I love you, Jacqueline. So Marcus picks him up with his dog because his dog missed him.
Who's not a seagull?
Who's not a seagull. And of course, Finn is like, stop being nice to me. Like, now that you're like, just stop. And he's like, no, that's not being nice to you with that. It's not why I'm being nice to you.
Oh yeah, stop being nice because I have a prosthesis. And he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't hate you because you have a prosthesis. I hate you because you're human.
Correct. And this is the overarching theme you need to remember, is that Marcus hates him. He hates his humanness.
I don't hate you because you're fat. You're fat because I hate you.
What the
What?
It's from Mean Girls.
Oh, God.
Oh my god.
Bitches.
Why is it always fat?
It's really funny though, and it's supposed to be kind of like sweet. They're all like apologizing to each other. I'm sorry that I told everyone that you had sex with a hot dog, like that sort of thing. Anyway.
Oh, God. Okay. Thanks, Jack. So this is where, so Marcus gets this, like, you see this flip on him now of like, okay, this human is so competent that it bothers me almost, because now he's like super into him because he's even impeded kind of by his lack of limbs, I suppose, but it actually never slows him down one time. So it's like he's more into him now even. So anyways, it's an interesting switch.
He seems more competent because of his lack of limbs.
That's right. And he starts being more attracted to like who Finn is as a person because he's so ridiculously competent.
Or he
Because
has a
he's fat.
magical limb fetish.
Okay, so then we jump over a couple days, and Finn is off work for I think a day or two, and then
he's not allowed to wear his
he's
iron.
not allowed, well Watson keeps his arm to fix it basically, and so he's like super aware
and
of
he's
that.
supposed to take the leg off.
At night. He is, and he doesn't because it makes him feel even more vulnerable.
Well, yeah. What if someone attacks you and then you couldn't run away?
There actually is a scene where he thinks he's being attacked in the night. He falls out of bed because he's not wearing his prosthesis.
Yeah, so we haven't talked about this. We've touched on it briefly, but every so often, Finn gets this like the stab of fear.
Heebie-jeebies.
It's heebie-jeebies is putting it almost too lightly because he's like
Evil
Marcus,
heebie-jeebies.
Well, and Marcus picks up on this too because like he's put Finn through the ringer on purpose to be a dickhead, and so have the rest of the crew and whatever. And nothing has scared him or shaken him at all.
Until now.
Well, and so there's one point where Finn is leaving Marcus's house for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And he's about to open his car door, and he gets this wicked stab of fear, like pure like, heebie-jeebie fear. Because he gets the aura of this monster that's been following him. And this is the guy who we find out is the one that took his limbs when he was in that car accident.
We know that as the reader.
We know that as the reader.
Marcus doesn't know that
Correct.
as the man. And
When you say took his limbs,
I mean, he bit them off and
Did it
took them.
state that he bit them
Yes,
off?
because Marcus at one point gets a glimpse of
the tearing.
of the tearing that is on his arm, and he sees that it's like teeth marks that have like bit off around his arm.
I just thinking about the logistics behind that. Like,
Yeah, it's fucked, man.
num 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 all the way around, like nibble 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 nibble, or like I'm just gonna open my gullet and let your fucking limb like. Like Gluttony from fucking Full Metal.
We'll go back to Full Metal again. Jesus Christ. Okay, well, that was a bit much.
Now I'm thinking of a pelican.
Very much like a pelican.
Yeah.
Yeah. Similar.
Not
Also
a
not a
seagull.
seagull. Yeah, definitely not a
Or
seagull.
a turkey.
Neither of those things.
Caca.
Fuck.
That's not the noise they make.
That's not a noise that any of those birds make either.
Yeah, that's like a crow.
Ooh, turkey, turkey.
Neither of those either. Yeah, no, not even close. Okay, so we get this scene where like he's having this immense stab of fear, and Marcus picks up on it like from in the house because he can sense his like big spike of emotion, and he comes out and he's like, "What the fuck was that? Like that was intense. Like what is?" And then Marcus also he feels the aura, like the oppressing aura as well, and this is where you get like little pieces of the story about like there was this vampire that's been following me for 15 years and he was gone for 10. And then it was just like within the last 5 years that he's been feeling him again. And this is something that like Oren knows, his father, and his sister knows about it, and Brooks knows about it too.
But not that it's happening recently.
Not that it's happening recently because he's keeping it to himself. For reasons.
What a murder.
Well, and this is where you kind of start piecing it together too, that like, oh, he joined the VRC in order to find a stronger vamp, basically, because he knew Marcus was like the oldest vampire in the area. And he's like, if I befriend Marcus, then Marcus can help me fight this other vampire with this oppressive aura. And he's never seen him and he doesn't know what he looks like. And there's so many missing pieces to this puzzle. And Finn is just kind of like trying to put it together the best he can and protect himself without like alerting anyone else too, which is another thing.
So does he really like Marcus?
He does. And this is the worst. The worst part is that like Finn actually genuinely likes Marcus and Marcus genuinely likes Finn. And this is where the complication comes in because they're both like, well, Finn doesn't because Finn just embraces it. But Marcus is like, oh, but you're a human. I can't like you. Like, that's not a thing. I'm not allowed to.
But is he also like, you're only here because you want me to protect you from your fucking bastard thing that tried to eat you 14 years ago?
Thing.
So here's the thing, Jack, is that like Marcus doesn't even piece that together. Like, oh, sorry, I shouldn't say that. Marcus, it doesn't even cross his mind. Like, you kind of get the internal monologue from Finn that this was his intent initially going into this. And then it all kind of fell by the wayside.
Is Marcus dumb?
Not really.
Okay.
He's definitely not as smart as Finn, though. Finn's, like, fucking quick as a whip.
But that's, like, one of those you have to be because of the situation that you're put in.
Oh, yeah. Things. For sure. When we get back to the office...
the VCR.
The VCR. They have like
after everything's been rewound.
Yeah, after rewind everything. They have this meeting, and like in the meantime, Marcus has informed Finn of some information that like they're getting these 2 agents in from like higher up or something to like take over to work with them on the case.
Dick bag.
And so those 2 agents come in and they have like a debriefing with them when Finn comes back in as well. They are called Agents Wren and Bailey. Bailey Smith is so Agents Wren and Smith. Wren is an asshole, and
Dickbag.
Smith is a gal, and she has some story arc coming up that we're going to talk about soon. So those are the 2 agents that get assigned to the case, and immediately they start posturing, especially specifically Wren because he's an asshole.
Well, he said tells Finn to go clean the bathroom.
Yeah, because he immediately walks in and just like dismisses Finn.
Because he's a human?
Because he's a human. Because humans aren't supposed to be in the VRC. It's interesting too because this is where you get the flip with Carson, where he defends Finn because he sees that Finn is such a good agent and he's like, grown on him kind of like some sort of fungus, because that's what Finn is like.
Where before he would have been like the one to tell him to go clean the bathroom.
Correct. And now he's
but
like,
only I can treat him like that.
Exactly, Jack. That's the vibe.
Kind of like Enzo in Shark Daddy. Only I can fuck with her.
Yeah, I wouldn't
but
draw
not
that conclusion.
sexy times.
But yeah, I see what you're doing, but no.
Only I can stuff him in a locker, okay?
Jesus. Okay. So what happens? So Marcus has to go off and like do something or send files or some shit. And in the meantime, Wren and Finn get into it to a point where Wren like throws Finn up against the wall by his throat and is like choking him out. And he gets that spike of fear again. And Marcus immediately runs back in. and is like, what are you doing? Like, he's mine. Get your fucking hands off of him. And so this is where we get the like, oh, damn, everyone just heard you claim this human as your own, Marcus. You're in for it now, buddy. Ren gets in shit for this, obviously. And like, I want to say Marcus like punches him out or some shit. They have an altercation of some genre.
I love the ongoing joke too, where like Marcus had to take an extra course and like how to not be a dick.
He had to take like, because this
like a human resources.
Yeah. He literally had to take an HR. I think he said he had to take more than one as well.
Yeah, he had to repeat it.
Finn?
No,
No.
just in order to get the job.
Oh,
Because you're not allowed to like yell at people and like stuff them in lockers and stuff like that.
You have to treat people with
management for the VCR.
respect. Literally.
Yeah.
Don't forget to rewind.
It's because you didn't rewind.
And it was late by 3 days.
When we get back to the case eventually after the HR debrief, and
HRD.
HR debrief?
I thought
The
HRD brief.
I thought you said HRD brief. I was like, what's the hard brief?
No.
He's hard in his brief.
Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, it happens.
Who wears briefs? Marcus?
I
I don't feel like he wears any underwear.
He does. I can't remember, honestly. It's too specific.
Well, boxer briefs are still a type of brief.
They are technically, yeah. There was a dude they caught at the concert that was related to the group that was involved here. And so they go to the hospital where he's being held because he's like very hurt. So they go to the hospital and like question him basically. And Ren goes with them, and so does Smith, and bleh. Anyway. Ugh. Bleh. I hate that for us. And of course the guy says nothing. He has like no information. He's not telling anyone anything.
You can't take e-talk covers.
Right.
Can't be a snitch because he'll get stitches.
Snitches get stitches.
Well, he's one of those like, you kind of get the inkling of like, I am not telling you anything because I think the phrase he uses is like he's way worse than you guys or something, or like you can tell he's working with another group, but he's not divulging who it is, and no one's pieced it together yet because they don't have all the information. So we fast forward to like that night or the next night or something, and Marcus and Finn have been like hanging out more, and like Finn comes over and just lays on the floor and cuddles Marcus's dog.
Because Finn doesn't want to be alone.
That's right, because this is after the like altercation with the evil aura sort of thing. Like Finn hasn't been sleeping, and he kind of makes excuses to be at Marcus's house and not be by himself. And anyway, you kind of get the vibe that like Finn is quietly asking for help, I guess, without actually saying it, because he wouldn't.
He's a bit of a needy fuck, basically.
He's kind of being, I guess, but like I would hate to describe him like that because that's not how he is. He's
in
very
a nice way.
Yeah, I suppose.
He's
so.
a needy fuck in a nice way.
He's the nicest needy fuck ever.
He's a needy fuck, but like he needs to be because he's actual in real.
He's actually terrified.
in real
10,
danger.
but he's a needy fuck.
The next day, after all that shit, they get a call, or it's like later that evening or something. Marcus gets a call from Smith, Agent Smith, and she's like, yo, yeah, I know, right, Smith?
Me.
Me too.
The great thing about me is there's so many me's.
Smith is like, yo, the guy at the hospital talked. He gave his location. We're heading out there now. Ren and I are heading out there now. Like, meet us there.
Liar.
So
She's a fucking cunt.
How did you deduce that, Detective Guac?
how did you come to that conclusion, Guac?
I heard it in her voice.
Totally. It's fair.
That's the.
I said she has a backstory coming up. This is where it is.
Oh, I missed that part.
Yeah, Jack wasn't paying attention. She didn't actually
Guac
read
missed
this
all the
one.
clues.
And yet still came to the correct conclusion.
So they go out
No,
to
you just said that he wouldn't say who it was.
So they went out to Marcus and Finn go out and I think at this point Finn doesn't have his arm back yet. This is important. So they go out there to this like warehouse where Smith said they, this was the place they had to be.
With only 3 arms between them.
With only 3 arms and 4 guns between them, yes. And they pull up and
2
turn
segways.
They roll up.
They roll up on segways.
They had to tie Finn to the Segway though, because he only had one arm to hold him onto it.
Bitches. It's Jesus.
That's horrible because that implies that people would. I'm so sorry. That was a shit thing to say.
You are a terrible person.
Wow, Ashton.
I know. I feel so
Wow.
bad. I'm sorry.
Dr. Ctaco, I'm taking away your license.
Joke's on you. I didn't have one in the first place.
Really, Dr. Ctaco? I couldn't imagine. Okay, so they roll up to where Smith is, and she's like, "Oh yeah, like Ren's over there scoping it out or whatever." And then Marcus gets the vibes that this is not right, and she turns around and just like shoots Marcus in the chest. And whatever she shoots him with is
With a
like
gun?
with a gun, but whatever
with a harpoon.
he's a white whale.
Well, could have been an arrow or a fucking
I wish
harpoon.
it was a harpoon.
That's amazing. You ever harpoon a vampire?
Where would it come from? How would you not know she had it?
Her bodice, obviously.
Her bodice. Just ripped it open, and there it was.
Harpoon.
Tip between her titties.
Well, I mean,
That's where I keep my harpoon.
she's there because there's like a bad situation. So if you saw her with a harpoon, you might not be like, "Oh, she's gonna use that on me."
I want to see a Detective Karen a harpoon, honestly.
It's going to be Jack's new thing.
Detective Guac, do you have a harpoon gun?
No, but I
You
might
should get one.
one.
Yeah, it sounds a great
It's going
idea.
to start with a potato gun and evolve.
Oh, I love this idea.
Oh, actually, I want one of those little marshmallow shooters,
Fun. Good place to start.
the mini ones.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Perfect.
I
Okay.
know, but continue.
She shoots Marcus in the chest, and whatever she hits Marcus with is like not healing. And so anyway, he like tries to take her out, and then they end up getting surrounded by a bunch of vampires, and they take off into the facility in order to hide. And Marcus is again not healing well. Finn is like shooting tranks at vampires, and they kind of get cornered. And Marcus is getting like really, really, really bogged down, and Finn sees this and he's like, there's, like 10 vampires around them and there's nothing they can do. And he's just like, whatever is in you is not healing. You need to like drink my blood in order to heal yourself. And Marcus is like, no. And Finn is like,
you have
yes.
to bite me.
And then to the point that Finn is like, he just like he takes a knife or something and like scratches his neck. And he's like, it's going to waste. Drippy, drippy. Oh no.
The sad thing is, this is very pretty similar to what he does say.
Quite literally. He's like, oh no, it's going to waste, Marcus. What are you going to do? And then
Way to make it sexual and put it on your neck, bro.
I mean, that's where veins happen. The big one.
You got to go for places that are going to bleed
Femoral
heavily.
artery will bleed more.
Which would be even more sexual.
Isn't that the one in your leg?
Yes, it's the one in your groin.
Hot.
That's
Yeah.
more
Not, like,
sexual.
in your groin, though, is it?
It goes up into your groin.
It could, for this purpose, it does.
In
Anyway.
a lot of sexy vampire books, there's a lot of bitey in the groin area.
Well, you don't want to, like, die, so you shouldn't do your, like, femoral artery or your,
You
like,
just said to do
I'm
the
just saying.
femoral artery.
or your carotid. Like, why not his wrist?
Okay.
Rachel's like, this is going off.
Okay. So he bites him in the... So Marcus
Horny
drinks
little bastard, even when people are in danger.
quite literally.
Also, these people are, like, trying to kill, and he's shooting them with fucking tranquilizers. Like, come on,
Well,
Finn.
so this is the thing, Jack, is that they don't have stuff that straight up kills vampires, like one shot, unless they're very young vampires. But even still, like, they don't shoot to kill them because they're detectives. They need to investigate this shit. They're not there to just like kill people.
Yeah. I mean,
Tell that to the Americans.
Shots fired.
shots fired.
Literally. Okay, so Marcus bites him, and this is where we get the feeling where like Finn is like, oh, this feels really nice.
Wait, he bites him or he sucks him?
Well, I mean, he does the
He
bitey
needs
thing.
to bite it in order to suck it.
Excuse me?
Go on. No, please explain, Ashley.
Yeah, please tell us.
He needs to get his teeth in there so that when he sucks on it, the blood goes into his mouth. He's not just going to be like, num, 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 like a cat.
I didn't say to lap it up. I said to suck it. Num 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 like a little cat. Num num num.
Thank you for that very, very good visual, Ashton. I appreciate that.
I wasn't sure if you were laughing at the noise of the visual.
All of it. I was laughing at all of it. It was quite good. Blood. So,
Ooh, blood. Num 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 num.
Jesus.
You gotta stick your tongue out when you do it, otherwise it's not accurate.
Okay. So anyway, Marcus bites him. He gets super strengthy, powered up. Yeah. Finn gets a little horny, but he also gets very woozy because he's losing a lot of blood. Marcus then like you get it from Finn's perspective, and he's just like kind of dozing a little bit. He's like, okay, Marcus, like go get him, and then all of a sudden Marcus is back. He's like, okay, I took care of them all. He's like, oh cool, that was fast, perfect. And then like the reinforcements come in because as they were going down the road or whatever, they called in
Brooks. No.
Yeah, they called in Brooks,
Yes.
and like the other detectives and stuff came in, and so it all gets cleaned up.
Do we not feel like they should have like an EpiPen for blood sort of thing? Like if you need blood, like
red blood cells that you just inject into your
Yeah.
ass.
Well, I mean, the only thing I would say about that, Jack, is that it has to stay cold.
it does.
Yeah, blood, like the blood does. It can't be warm blood because like it just loses the whatever, like it whatever.
Coagulation.
Yeah, I guess like bad
don't
things
know.
happen. It needs to be like chilled. And so
It goes bad.
yeah, and so like here's the thing, great idea, I love it. Let's workshop that later.
Okay.
Let's put
Perfect.
a pin in it.
I'll put
Put
it
a
on
pin-
my list.
okay, put it on the board with a knife in it, and we'll talk about it later.
A Segway knife.
Yeah, obviously. So
with wheels on it.
Jesus Christ, vroom vroom.
Stabby, vroom, vroom.
So surprise, Smith ends up getting away. Unfortunate.
The bitch.
She's also
Wait, was the other guy there too?
Ren was not there.
Ren, so he's not a douchebag.
Ren's not. Okay, hold on.
Okay, he's
That's
still a
pushing
douchebag,
it.
but he's not a
Ren
murderer.
is a douchebag.
But he's not a murdering douchebag
He's not a traitor that we know of
yet.
yet.
Book 4.
Douchebag. Book 62.
So they get a debrief, not literally, although it
I
happens.
was going
later.
to say, yeah, information, not pants.
Yeah.
That comes later.
It sure does. And they kind of tiptoe around the fact, and they don't put in the report that Marcus bit Finn. And so you get this scene between Marcus and Brooks, where Brooks brings up the footage. He's like, "So, were you going to tell me about this?
What's
And
happening here,
What's,
guys?
what's going on here?" And Marcus is like, "Yeah, anyway, paperwork, blah, blah, blah." And then he gets the conversation with Brooks about why Finn is so good at shooting vampires. Because it comes up here, too, where he's, like, so quick to shoot them, and even though they're moving really fast, and they're, like, older vampires. And you get the backstory of Finn when he had his car accident, or when he was in his accident, he received a blood transfusion from his sister, who was the closest match to his blood type.
There
And
you go,
so
there's
he
the
has,
ginger.
so he's got a little ginger in him, is what we're saying. I think Jack
Double
would-
ginger now.
He's got a double ginge.
Can't be double ginger. The ginger came from the dad. The dad is not related to Finn.
That's true. Actually, we don't know who Finn's father is, and I think that is an interesting point that is going to come up at some point. Because in book 2 is about these guys
Yeah.
too.
Dude,
So
I don't think you told me that it came from the dad.
Arya's dad,
Oren.
Oren, is the one that gave the ginge. So Oren's not Finn's dad.
Correct.
Therefore, the
He's
ginge.
he's his adopted father.
Yeah, but didn't he adopt both of them?
he did.
Yeah, but you can't get ginge by proxy.
But
He
weren't they?
adopted the ginger.
They were
I wish
brother
I
and
was born into
sister,
it.
like actual.
Yes.
They're the same mom.
Same
Yes.
mother, but different.
But
father.
the ginger came from the father, not from the mother.
But that's what I'm saying. You didn't tell me that. How do we know that?
Oh, I see. She's trying to point out which ginge it is. Listen, he's got single ginge for all intents and purposes, because he's only got this much vampire in him, and it's just the vampire blood.
for now, he's
for
gonna get
now.
a little bit more vampire in him in a
For now.
bit.
He might have some vampire in him.
I
in
think
a
he's
bit.
gonna have some other kind of vampire in him. It's not
Know
blood.
what I'm saying?
It's penis.
So
Marcus's guy. It's his penis.
it's Marcus's penis.
How did you know?
How did you know? How did you know that Finn was a bottom?
Yeah, I honestly, when I read books like this,
You wanted to switch.
there's this little part of me that's like,
Wouldn't it be funny?
Because you want the Marcus guy to be vulnerable.
yes.
Thanks for that, Jacqueline. I
Thank you
appreciate
for
that.
Credit,
We'll put that.
credit bucket nuts.
Ugh, we don't have to credit him. That's okay.
Yeah.
Come on, he only says funny things
You
like
misheard.
once.
You misheard him, because he said vulnerable.
Yeah,
you thought he
he-
said vulnerable.
I
And so that
thought
was a
he
team
said
effort.
vulnerable.
That's
Yeah,
true.
I
yeah.
did too, and it's okay. But he said vulnerable, so that was a group effort.
Yeah.
So we're all claiming it.
So we misunderstood his.
Correct.
Yeah.
We.
I was there.
Oh
So
my
we're the awesome
goodness.
ones.
We projected funniness onto
You guys
bucket
are,
nuts.
You guys are hilarious. Did you know that?
I was not aware.
Okay, so then we get some more information about the evil dude, and they
And
have a
then
date. Like
fucking-
Marcus and Finn have a date night at home or whatever, and they snuggle the dog. Obviously,
That's not a euphemism.
I was gonna
literally
say.
not. They literally snuggle the dog. It's hilarious.
When you say the evil dude, do you mean the guy that took his leg and his
Yeah,
arm? Okay.
yeah. So like the vibes, you get more backstory about that. And
so
then
does Smith have anything to do with that, or is that
no?
Oh,
This is
okay.
different. So this is where we're like, so we're building that story. The original story has nothing to do with the evil vampire dude. Like those two things are separate because the evil vampire dude I think gets fleshed out more in the second book, and this is like a self-contained, just this whodunit mystery thing.
It's like overarching story and then singular story.
Correct. So this singular story is coming together that like there's this group of people who are trying to basically give vampires put back in the box, as it were, to be like not equal with humans, and basically scrapping the Equity Act. And so there's these people working together to create these drugs that are like destroying vampires from the inside, and they get super addicted to it.
Like Coke.
Like Coke. But
Is that the
so-
stuff that exploded at the concert?
It is, and it's also
or-
the stuff in the cafe, if you remember, when they got dropped a bucket of blood. It was also in that bucket of blood, which was why it made them go so crazy, because it was like super hyper potent blood.
Right.
So this is the kind of pieces they're putting together in the background here. Oren, who gets called in on some stuff because Oren has connections in the vampire community, given that he's so old. And so they like go to him to find out like, okay, who would be involved in this, because the vampires are working with the humans, and like what is going on here, and like who would have it out for them anyway. So he's like putting his feelers out. But Oren also calls a team meeting because it gets back about the evil vampire guy to him, that he's back. Like Marcus lets it drop or something.
Oren invites Marcus to his house to talk to them about the evil vampire
Well, and
guy.
they do not invite Finn.
Yes.
And this is important because Marcus then tells Finn of what's going on. And Finn's like, okay, let's go. And they all go together.
Yes.
And when he rolls up, Oren is just like, I thought we said we weren't going to include Finn. And Marcus is like, And this is where we get the conversation with Finn as well, where for years, Oren wanted him in a bubble and did keep him like
hamster ball.
a hamster ball.
It's quite literally a hamster ball.
The ginger in the plastic bubble.
And so Oren is like very fond of Finn, and he's like, Oren's like an ancient vampire, so he's got this like fondness, almost like a pet, I guess, where he wants to keep him forever, and he knows he has a finite timeline as a human, and he wants to like keep him safe and make sure he doesn't expire before he is meant to, and it's really adorable, honestly. And actually, I think Marcus poses the question, and this is where you learn about the being able to change people into vampires thing, where he was like, well, after your accident, why didn't Oren apply to change you as a vampire? And Finn tells him that like, oh, he did, and given that like the stuff about the Dampier came out and it was recent, that he was like still kind of blacklisted, and it was not allowed. So they have the conversation, and Finn asks Marcus to go to bat for him because he uses the phrase, Oren will listen to you more than he'll listen to me, because he's older than Oren, and it's a respect status thing. Yeah. Marcus does, I think, almost reluctantly, I would say, like call out the fact that like, hey, Finn is here to live his life. He's been dealing with this for 5 years behind your guys' back, and you didn't even know about it. And he's still going to work and doing all these things, and he's still super capable. So we're not going to put him in a hamster ball, as much as I would love to see him in a hamster ball.
I want a hamster ball.
I want you to have a hamster ball.
Could you imagine me running around in a hamster ball?
100% I could imagine that.
I would cause so
You
much
are
fucking-
the only person I could imagine doing that.
It also sounds amazing. I want that for you.
I could cause so much shit.
It would be so fun. We go back to the case after this, and they're going back to the club specifically because there's a lot of stuff adding up that I want to say Finn remembered one of the names that had come up of the people they captured at the warehouse, or was killed at the warehouse.
Being in the computer.
Being in the computer list where he found Grady's name originally.
Perry's computer.
Yeah, and so Perry, he's the guy that owns the club, and so it was his computer that they had found the names in. And Finn remembered the name being on that list. And so they went back, like, okay, let's go back and see if we can find anything else. And, like, we'll do that quietly and not ask for a warrant and see what we can do. Because warrants take forever. And this is, like, a hunch. It's not even, like... Because originally they got the information it wasn't legit either. So they didn't want to, like, rock that boat. Even though they've already done a bunch of illegal shit. It's fine.
I forgot that they were, like, cops.
Yeah, they're they're detectives.
Yeah, they work for the VCR.
Yeah, but I totally forgot that the VCR was, like...
Be kind, rewind.
The government, like, for real people. Like, not just, like, a side hustle.
Oh, not like a PI situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're legit.
Not like your kind of detective.
Exactly.
He nailed it. So, so when they're at the club this time, they're trying to blend in because it's all humans in here and it's packed and it's busy. And they get to like dancing. And when they're dancing, they get real close. And this is where they like have the conversation about like, maybe we should like date and be boyfriends. And then they are officially. And then Fin is working towards, Marcus hears something down one of the hallways or something. And they go investigate. And when they go down to the hall, there's one of the doors is open for whatever reason.
I think they're in the office first, aren't they?
No, Perry's in the office.
Right.
And so something happens, like the music shuts down or whatever, and something is going on stage. And the door to like the back room or the downstairs, I guess, gets left open. And the two of them right? And someone like has run out of it and left the door open because of this kerfuffle. As Marcus gets close to the door, he like gets taken aback and he like, I can't, like he has to put his mask on and he's like, I can't go, like there's something down there that like it's like drawing me in, like it's not, like it's making him lose his faculties, and so he cannot get close to the door or anything. So Fin, of course, in typical Fin manner, he's like, I'll go, it's fine. And Marcus is like, no, you can't go down there by yourself, you don't know what's down there, I can't hear anything down there, but like don't go down there. And he's like, okay, bye. And then he goes down there. And Marcus in the meantime, he's like, okay, fine, like if you need anything, yell, I will hear you. And then Marcus goes back to the main club
where he will not hear him.
Okay.
Well, because the music is shut off.
The music is shut off, and there's a something going on.
There's shenanigans afoot.
Yeah, so that means there's all kinds of other noises happening.
But he is, and I mean, the notion here is that he's paying close attention to Fin, and he's listening to him go down the stairs and stuff. So like, and not to mention they're in text, they're texting with each other as well. So like they're
textual communication.
Do vampires have superhuman
hearing?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yes, they do.
They have super earrings. Yes.
Superhuman power.
And they have
earrings.
magical sniffers as well.
Okay.
It's glorious.
Or maybe not. So depending on what they're sniffing.
Yeah. So when Fin goes downstairs, all the doors get left open. Whatever. He finds like an empty room, but there is a cage that has a vampire in it. And she, like the lady that's in there, is just like suffering. Like she's been in here for a long time. She's very drugged, and she like doesn't have her wits about her. But she's also like begging him to help her find her husband, who was taken. And so he finds the key to her cell, opens it, and as he's opening it, somebody's coming back down the stairs, and so she pulls him into the cage and closes the door and locks it.
And hides him under the blanket.
With her.
Which should tell you how small he is.
He's very little. So that happens. And then the guys that come back downstairs are like, oh my God, this bullshit. So what had happened upstairs is that one of the, I don't think it was Grady, it was one of the other guys, had grabbed a human or something. And
it was
like,
the bouncer.
Yeah, the bouncer had grabbed a human and like, or a vampire or something. It caused a scene basically that had a vampire like trying to eat a human.
No, it was the girl. The girl and her boyfriend showed up to the club, and
one
they
of them
grabbed
was a vampire,
and one of them was a vampire.
And this is a human-only club.
Yes, and so they want to make it like show them, be like, you are bad,
right? And they needed another specimen for this test stuff they were doing, so they brought the vampire
and
with
Perry's
them downstairs.
All like, what the fuck are you doing? We don't do this.
Don't eat where you shit, sort of thing.
Don't eat where you shit. Everybody shits on this floor, so don't eat on it. What?
Amazing. So anyway, so they pack up everything that's in the basement along with this new vampire and the vampire in the cage and Fin, who's now in the cage with the vampire, and they truck it out.
But he
drops his phone at one point because when she shoves him in the cage, he drops his phone, so he does not have his phone on him.
In the meantime,
Marcus has gone upstairs, seen that kerfuffle. They had left, and then when people were filing out or going back to whatever, he gets attacked, and he gets slammed up against the wall, and he kind of like shakes it off. He's like, what the fuck is this? And he turns around and looks, and there's this guy wearing a cloak with his a person. I think they gender it as a male. I'm not sure. A person in a cloak, and you can't see their face or anything. And all of the humans that are left in the place are kneeling on their feet, on their knees, on the floor.
It's Jesus.
It's definitely not Jesus.
Vampire Jesus.
You, Jesus. Jesus is a vampire. He rose after 3 fucking days. Let's be fair. So this is the big evil impending aura that
what if it
Marcus
is
had
Judas?
felt. What?
What if it's Judas?
I mean, sure, maybe.
Judas
You gotta
could
read
be
the
a
second
vamp-
book.
Judas could be a vampire.
Maybe, could be. They're all kneeling on the floor, and this is the big impending vampire guy.
Dun dun dun.
And then so he and Marcus have a fight, and he eventually ends up like fleeing, I guess, because Marcus is like kind of not getting the upper hand, but he's fighting back well. And this is really like
Jesus is a scaredy cat.
Jesus.
Is that what you took from it? Because I took from it that he was kicking Marcus's ass.
He was. I mean, here's the thing: is that Marcus was holding his own, which was really, I think, the test.
I thought you said the Jesus guy left.
Does after he basically tells Marcus like the only reason that he's allowing Marcus to play with Finn is because he's keeping Finn safe for this vampire person.
When he's not around, he's protecting. Yeah, when the big imposing vampire is not around, Marcus is there to protect him.
But don't touch him because he's his.
I mean, there's that.
Rawr. Bitey bitey.
Anyway,
Joke's on you. I already touched him.
no, have they done it? I don't think they've
Not
done it
yet.
yet. Marcus obviously calls in reinforcements. They get down to the basement and everything's gone. And of course he panics. And when Brooks shows up, he's like, "Oh, it's cool. Just call the doctor." And Marcus is like, "What the hell are you on about?" And he's like, "Yeah, the doctor, the prosthesis that Finn has have tracking chips in them because they're very expensive pieces of equipment. And if they ever got like nicked or whatever,
Stolen.
then they'd want to find them and get them back." And so I'm like, "This is genius." So they
my head went, "This is Jesus."
is that you, Jesus? And then
Call the doctor. Doctor who?
Dr. Ctaco? So they Finn gets taken to this like warehouse place, wherever it is.
Another warehouse.
A different warehouse, not the first one. And he ends up do you remember this scene where he's under the blanket and the lady, oh my god, what's her, do you remember her name?
Trying to take off her bra.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't that. She suggests like, so he wants to pick the locks that are on her manacles that are like getting her chained down, and
Not in a sexy way.
not in a sexy way at all because he's very gay and she's not. And
A dude.
yeah, she's not a dude. She is married to a guy. She's like, okay, well, I don't have a key or whatever. She's like, oh, wait, I have a piece of wire. And he's like, oh yeah, if you have a piece of wire, I can pick your locks or whatever. And she's like, okay, you just got to pull the underwire out of my bra. And so she like takes her bra off and he's like helping her pull the wire. And it's very
He
funny.
helps her take her
He
bra.
has to, yeah, because she's all manacled. So he helps to like unclip her bra and stuff. And it's very funny.
I
Because
can't
again,
imagine
a
a
gay man.
gay man would know how to do that very well.
No, she had to walk him through. She walked him through it. It was very funny.
It's funny when he brings it up later, though.
Yeah,
He's
'cause
like,
he
"I
tells
helped fix
Marcus."
my bras off
Yeah.
last night." Yeah.
It's very funny.
So is she was kidnapped, but is she like a good person?
She's drugged, so like you can't really get a handle on this, but she comes off as a good person.
Okay.
She is just trying to find her husband, basically, and like she like again doesn't have her faculties around her because like they've been keeping them all like all of the vampires that were here, they were keeping them very much drugged like with this stuff they've been imposing on other vampires.
Super serum.
Yeah, this like weird super serum stuff.
So her grabbing him and bringing him into the cage wasn't like she was trying to make sure he wasn't seen by the people that were coming
Yeah,
downstairs.
more or
Okay.
less.
She knows that he's a cop.
Yes, she does know that. And and she knows that he can help her.
Yeah.
It's just the takeaway
Help
here.
me find my husband.
So when they get back, so he gets the lock picked and he has the key for the cell with him, and so he unlocks the cell and whatever. And he like still has his guns with him because again, no one knew he was here. So they the two of them end up freeing other vampires as well that were there, and they end up breaking themselves out and freeing themselves. And so by the time Marcus and everyone else gets there, they are already broken out. And he's like, "Oh, hey, Marcus," and he's like, "I came to save you." He's like, "I saved myself, no big deal." And that's hilarious. So,
And that's funny.
well, he's literally like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Marcus. I already saved myself." It's adorable. So that's where so I think that night is when they finally have the hanky panky.
That's
and
what your notes say.
That's what it says, the hanky panky finally.
Is that when you turn yourself about?
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is where they have the team lock Finn up meeting. It's the other one was, I think this is where they like he went on a date with Oren or something.
Yes.
Yeah, and so this is where they like
Who did?
Finn. He goes on a date with his dad, like just to.
He
when I say
says-
date, I mean like a lunch date.
He tells Marcus he's
Oh.
going on a date.
yeah, and Marcus
doesn't
insists on coming along.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, it's very
And then
funny.
it ends up being Oren.
Yeah, surprise. Anyway, so this is where the team lock Finn up meeting it happens because everyone knew that he was taken. And
They're like, was it the guy again?
well, and this is where and Marcus tells him about like the dude that attacked him, and so it all comes back.
All coming back to me now.
And then my notes say they had the datiest date of all the dates.
I don't know what that means.
They went out for like dinner and a movie, and like they did like very stereotypical date stuff.
What movie did they see?
I don't remember, honestly. I feel like
Twister.
I feel like they just like went for a walk in the park or something,
Is
like
it
one of those
wrong
things.
that I'm excited for the new Twister movie?
The only thing I saw so far is the poster, and it's really funny because everyone's like, the tornado's behind you. Why are you shocked looking at the sky in the opposite direction? It's very funny.
Maybe there's two.
Maybe it's
Dual
called Twisters
Twisters.
because isn't it apostrophe or it's just S? Like it's
Well, it's the second one.
yeah.
So, I mean, I think they would lose out on some opportunities if they didn't have two Twisters at the same time.
Two Twisters? What?
Not to be confused with the game.
Oh, Liz, that's her name. Anyway, so
Damn it, Liz!
Okay, so I knew I wrote it down somewhere. Jacqueline, here's where you're too insightful. This is fun. So
It's almost like you're a detective.
Detective Guac.
Detective Guac has figured it out.
I don't know why you had to say guac like you were a fucking chicken.
Guac guac. So they're back at the office and
Because it's a joke.
it's a yoke.
It's a joke. The joke is,
Guac guac.
what do you call a Mexican duck? Or what does a Mexican duck say? And it's quack!
Amazing.
And it's funny.
Thanks, Jack. I'm gonna draw you as a Mexican detective duck now.
Yes!
Perfect.
Like Duckman.
Oh my god, you remember that
And
show?
Perry the Platypus mixed
Oh.
together.
Duckman was wild.
I
It was
know.
very like 18
Corn-fed the
plus.
pig.
Yeah.
But he has to have a hat like Perry the Platypus.
I agree.
Is that a detective hat?
Yeah.
I don't know what Perry the Platypus is.
The next day, they bring Liz in, who's the gal that escaped or helped.
bra.
With the bra. Liz with the bra.
Yeah, the one with the bra.
And she gets her husband back, which is awesome. And so
He's in the hospital.
her and her husband, yes. Well, so this is a couple days later, I should say. He was in the hospital, and then the two of them came in to have a meeting. And so he was like, they talked to Liz first, and then going to talk to him second, and whatever.
But he needed a glass of water.
Hold on. So Liz is in there talking to Marcus and Finn, and then Marcus gets called away for whatever reason, and so she's in there with Finn.
In where?
No.
Sorry, the
No,
hospital?
I'm sorry, vice
She's in
versa.
with Marcus.
Finn gets called away, and she's in there with Marcus in the interrogation room, just like chit chatting. And there's a ruckus outside when Finn goes to leave to pick up some paperwork or something. The guy, there's like some miscommunication thing, and the person at the front desk is bringing in the husband, and Finn is like, "That's not the husband. What is
He
going
wanted
on
a glass
here?"
of water.
Yeah, and so she was bringing him back for a glass of water, and he's like, "That's not the husband at all."
Vampires don't drink water.
They
And-
drink blood.
And then the guy like throws a smoke grenade or some shit into the bullpen, and it's the drug, and so all the vampires start going fucking insane. And in the meantime,
What if it's bone marrow?
We've established it's a drug.
it's a drug of some sort. It could be bone marrow based drug. I don't know. Anyway, so
Liz sprays shit on Marcus.
and Liz sprays shit on Marcus. So Finn ends up with Carson. Like outside, and so because Carson's not in the building, and
He's
so
chasing down Grady, and Carson's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Can you stop that guy who's in that car?"
and he's like
then
zip zip, and he gets him.
Carson runs into the car.
Yeah, it's great.
Physically runs into the car.
Literally runs into it.
Yeah.
And I should mention too,
And then gets shot.
because again, I'm not putting all of the stuff in here because it's a lot. It's a detective whodunit, so like there's a lot of little pieces here and there that I'm leaving out. This is one of them where when Finn came in that morning, there's a bunch of protesters outside.
Yes.
Human protesters specifically, who were
Dun,
like,
dun, dun.
"You guys need to solve this vampire bullshit crimes and blah 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 blah." And
Do
so,
better.
As we do.
as we do. And so when they go outside, Finn's like, "Oh my god!" Like he's putting it all together that like this is a plant. There's a bunch of human protesters outside, and there's a riot happening with the vampires inside. And if they come outside and start eating protesters, it's gonna be really bad.
Especially because they're from the VCR,
That's right. So who are supposed to be solving the crime and rewinding?
not DVDs.
Fuck those DVDs. They end up apprehending Grady, and then Marcus ends up like subduing everybody basically.
Naked. Almost. He takes his
Yes,
clothes
that's right.
off.
He takes his clothes off. You're right.
'Cause he's covered
he
in the
was covered
stuff.
in the drug stuff. Anyway, and so
Detective Hot Ass.
Detective Hot Ass.
What?
He had to take his clothes off because he had the stuff on him that made the doctors made the vampires attack him.
Right.
And so he was stripping off his clothes to try and get the stuff off of him so that he wasn't getting attacked as much because he didn't want to fight all the people that he was in the detective agency with.
Right.
The VCR.
The VCR. I think it's after they get all this shit under control, they get he gets a call from Smith.
Yes.
And Smith, in like kind of a last ditch effort, I mean, you kind of.
No, it's Ren. He gets a call from Ren, who's like, Smith just called me.
Yes, that's that good point. It is Ren, because Ren gets called out to meet Smith.
Yes.
And they put a tracker on him and all this stuff and like a wire and whatever, do detective shit. And he goes in to meet Smith, and then they set up this meeting where Ren is going to. No, sorry. They set up this meeting. Ren and Smith have this conversation, and she tells him about how she's under this, like, she's been drugged, and how it's this addictive substance, and how as soon as you get clear of it, you need to go back into it, and it's just
I
like
didn't have a choice.
it's like almost a human trafficking situation where they're trying to control them by keeping them drugged all the time. The vampires, I should say, specifically.
Yeah.
And then they're using them and giving them drugs as a reward, basically, for helping them facilitate this like vampire human kind of beef they have.
You
with each
did a
other.
good job. Here's a cookie.
Literally, except drugs.
Except
Except the cookies are drugs.
Here's some Coke.
And so when Smith leaves, it's not Ren that follows her. It's Marcus and Finn.
Yes.
And so she was banking on Ren following her, and things would have played out differently potentially. So basically, she takes them back to the main warehouse place, a different, yet a third warehouse of sorts.
I mean, they like the warehouses.
Why not? It's like werewolves versus vampires types of warehouses.
Werewolves versus warehouses.
I would watch that.
Didn't we have that conversation about warehouses?
This sounds
because
very
of the
familiar.
house?
So they follow her to the warehouse, and
They get attacked.
they get attacked. They go out, and like there's this big fucking final showdown, and like they have reinforcements coming with them.
vampire ninjas.
Vampire ninjas. They find out, like, they piece together that Perry is the bad guy, and Perry's the guy who owns the club and whatever, and he's
Not the platypus.
He's not the platypus, but he's like an underling, or sorry, he's supposed to be the big bad guy.
I don't think so.
And Marcus literally just like kills him in 2 seconds. He's just dead. It's very anticlimactic, and I think that's purposeful.
Like he's supposed to be the Jesus guy.
No.
Totally
No.
different. No.
Overarching story versus story.
Yeah. So Perry's dead. They apprehend everybody. They shut the drug down. They collect all the vampires who are drugged and get them detoxed. And happy ending.
There's a party
And there's a party
with cookies.
in pants. It's a pants party. Sorry, it's a pantsless party with Finn and Marcus.
Shit happens when you party naked.
So that is
The story.
That's the story. That's all of it. The ending was a little anticlimactic, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But there was a big showdown, and like they're fighting, and there's a piece where like Finn is like they're in a car accident basically, and Finn's like getting the flashback bullshit of like being
Yeah.
stuck in, and there's a lot of that kind of tension. And then Marcus
Emotion.
leaves him to go deal with something, and when he leaves him, he's like,
Smith.
yeah, like anyway, there's a bunch of like he ends up fighting Perry, and then like Marcus comes back and just kills Perry.
So Liz
Was a bad guy. So that
was a vampire still though.
yeah, Liz was a vampire. But
Still, there. Yeah, once you're a vampire, you don't.
No, I
become
just
that-
meant like she wasn't pretending before to be a vampire.
no, she
And
was straight
her
up a
husband
vampire.
was a vampire.
Yes, but he was in the hospital. So the person she brought with him was Grady, I believe.
Yeah.
So
Patrick
like
Grady.
who was a human. Anyways, there's a whole anyway.
So what the whole thing that they were trying to do
Yep.
was just fuck shit up. Like they didn't care what was happening exactly.
Yeah,
Just
so-
they wanted humans and vampires to die, and
No,
so they
well,
would
so okay.
hate each other again.
So basically, what they wanted to do was to go back on the sanctions between vampires and humans, like the Equity Act. They
Right.
wanted vampires to be less than.
But
Again,
she's a vampire.
she is, and so this
But
is like
she's
the human
drugged.
trafficking kind of twist to it, where like they're all drugged. The vampires are drugged and they're under control.
She was drugged.
She was too.
also.
All of them, yeah, like all of the vampires were in this instance who were on the bad side.
And you were
So both her and
supposed
Smith.
to believe that Perry is the god who did it.
Yeah, you're supposed
Not
to
the
believe that.
platypus.
Not the platypus. Just the guy.
And he's just a human.
He's just a human.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, yeah.
Doofenshmirtz.
So do you think there's like something in the next book?
I honestly think like, and I'm
Just kidding. It wasn't him.
well, no, I mean, it was him. It obviously was because
He's not the big.
it's just
bad.
that he's not the big bad. Yeah, he's like the
Well, because the guy who did the limbs is the big bad.
probably.
Yeah.
I'm
Watson?
gonna say I don't know. Listen, I haven't read the second book. Let's not speculate.
I'm not saying Watson. It's probably the big bad that's trying to nom on Fin.
Oh, that's who she meant.
Yeah.
No, she didn't say Watson.
The limbs. The guy
The guy who took her limbs.
who
Yeah.
took the
Not the guy who
limbs.
gave him his limbs back.
I was
The
like,
other
oh,
guy.
you thought I meant the doctor.
No.
Yes.
No.
I was like, Watson, we know his name? What the fuck? How do we not kill this guy?
How do we not kill this guy?
Okay.
Damn it, Watson.
So Jacqueline, I'm gonna get you to read something now that we're at the end. This
I always forget about the reading thing.
I don't know how.
I don't know
We're on
either.
episode 51. How did you forget you're gonna read stuff?
This is like almost at the end of the book. So
Is it even a sexy times book? Like,
oh fuck yeah. Oh, I mean, there's like 3 sex scenes. It is definitely a romance book, but I picked it predominantly because vampires, but secondly because it's a whodunit, and I know how much you love that.
yeah.
So I wanted to keep you engaged, and you're very engaged. I appreciate that.
You think you're cute, I say, as I catch his leg and arm and swiftly push my left side into him, rolling him onto his back before seating myself on his waist and pushing back until his cock rubs against my ass. I'm in charge, I growl. As you've said, he teases, but it's kind of like a puppy trying to bully me. I'll bully you all right. I press a hand against his head, pinning it down as I reach into the drawer for lubricant. When I sit back down, I can just see he's thinking about something, thinking about what he's going to do. He reaches for me, but I slide my arm back and use his own momentum to drive him to the side before I lean into him and nip his lip. You need to be quicker than that, vampire. Marcus watches me in surprise. You're an observant little thing, aren't ya? I reach back and draw a hand up his cock as it pushes against my ass. Maybe I just can't look away from you. I run my hands up his arms, pinning them above his head. I hold them there, even though I know he could push my hands away with barely any work, and there's nothing I could do to stop him. My artificial arm could probably hold him a little longer, but there's only so much a human can do against a vampire. But that doesn't bother me because I know he'd never hurt me. He slips his hands free, determined that he's not going to let me win this. He grabs my hips and pulls me forward so I sink into his kiss as he takes the lubricant from me. He coats his fingers in it before drawing a cold finger over my hole. He pushes his finger inside of me as I kiss him. Just don't forget who's in charge. Me, he growls with that sexy, grumbly voice that makes me want to tease him even more. I could do this all day long to hear that possessive tone. The tone he uses when he decides he needs everyone to know that he's in charge. My favorite is when he's using it on others, but it pertains to me. But beggars can't be choosers, so I'll take what I can get. I run my lips down his cheek to his neck as 2 fingers move inside me. I nip his throat, wondering how it'd feel to have fangs that I could sink into his throat. What would it be like to draw that much pleasure out of someone with just a bite? I grab the lubricant as I pull away and his fingers slip out of me. I slide my body back until his cock is in front of me, allowing me to rub lubricant from the tip down to the base. Then I lift myself up above him. Slowly I lower myself until I feel his tip right beneath me. I press down as he slowly opens me up. I catch his golden eyes watching me closely as I hover above him, just the tip inside me before pressing down. I draw my hands down his chest as he groans. Watching him closely, I rock my hips slightly, and the pleasure in his expression excites me. I grab his wrist and pull him up into a sitting position as I move on him, but I want to feel more of him. He wraps his arms around me as his mouth finds mine. My cock brushes against his stomach, so I reach down and stroke myself in time to my slow rocking. He draws his fingers down me, and it's so soft and sensual that I feel lost in his touches. All of this is so new to me. The relationship, the way I feel about him, the way my body reacts to him, all of it consumes me as I move on his cock. I dig my fingers into his back and tuck my head against his neck as my pace quickens until I feel that edge right there. And that is the moment he bites into my throat. I'd been so preoccupied with everything else I hadn't been expecting it, so the sudden rush of pleasure shocks me. He pushes me back as he drives into me, and I let him without complaint. I moan, overcome by it all. Pleasure rushes through me from my throat down into my body as I'm pulled away from it all, and all I can feel and focus on is him. The way he holds me, his cock deep inside me, his touch, his bite, and I'm blinded by it all. When I come, it hits me hard, unlike anything I've felt before, and all just because he bit me? If some bites feel like this, why aren't more people addicted to this? As he slowly pulls out of me, I realize that I'd been so lost in my own pleasure, I'd forgotten about his. But clearly biting him must do something to him as well, for him to hit his own orgasm so quickly. What are you doing to me? I groan as he pins me to him and holds me against his body. I'm panting like I've run a race, but I don't even remember exerting that much energy. Of course he's perfectly fine over there, besides the light flush to his cheeks. I'll do anything to you to make you feel as good as I can, he says, and I squeeze into him. You've made me feel unbelievably good, not just with sex. You always make me so damn happy. How do you make me feel like this? He smiles as he draws his fingers down my back. I've told you and everyone else, it's because you're mine, and I don't share. Well, guess what? You're mine too, I say as I give him a kiss, and I'll fight off all the bitches for you. Mine, mine, mine. He grins at me as he runs a finger over the arm closest to him, which is my fake one. Everyone refuses to touch them or look at them in case I notice, but if I was lying on my other side, he'd do the exact same thing to my real arm, like both are a part of me. And it makes me appreciate them a little more. They give me the freedom to do what I want. Yes, they make me weaker, but they've also made me so much stronger. I just can't forget that.
Thanks for that, Jack.
Yeah.
Had to put the wholesome bit at the end, right?
Oh.
Isn't that wholesome?
Wholesome.
Wholesome. Speaking of holes, we need to rate this book. And I think we should rate
Did you
it.
say speaking of holes?
Yes. We should rate it on grilled cheese sandwiches.
Ooh.
Mostly because I really like grilled cheese sandwiches. So I think out of 5 grilled cheese, which is an appropriate amount of grilled cheese in my less than humble opinion. So, Jack, how grilled cheesy are you feeling about this book?
I feel like I was like pretty cheesy about it. The end maybe kind of didn't seem as fun or like satisfying. So maybe like 3 like really good grilled cheese sandwiches, like nice and crispy, good cheese pull, all that.
Good cheese
Listen,
pull.
the cheese pull's where it's at.
The cheese pull is where it's at.
I wasn't aware that was a thing.
What?
Cheese pull TikTok.
Oh my goodness.
You are missing out. It
Yeah.
is amazing.
Some people go nuts for book talk about cheese pull talk.
Cheese pull talk. I'm just saying.
Girl.
None of that. Okay, continue.
I will send you some.
That's quite all right.
So yeah, 3 good cheese pull grilled cheeses.
Amazing.
And then maybe like a half of one that's just kind of like leftover. Like maybe it was
Like
in the
it's cold?
fridge or something.
Oh, God.
Like it's still,
Ew.
you're like
Ugh.
drunk and you eat it, or you're like, you know.
You're
One
desperate.
drunk
One
cheese talk.
desperate.
Cheese talk.
Cheese.
1 drunk cheese talk and 3 grilled cheeses with
Grilled
cheesiness.
Jesus.
Yes.
And 1 grilled cheese with Jesus' face on it.
Exactly.
Grilled
The
cheeses.
half one has half of Jesus's face on
He
it.
will rise again.
How
The
do you
good half.
Which side is his good half?
Girl,
The left.
are you serious?
I need to know your answer. Okay, maybe I don't. Okay, Ashton.
Oh, I thought you meant Ashton's answer.
Ash, how many grilled cheeses?
We'll
would you
talk
like to
about
rate?
Jesus later.
Yeah, we'll talk about cheeses on another
We
episode.
probably should be talking about Jesus, considering. 3,
3 grilled cheeses.
3.5, 3.5.
Okay, so the same as Jacqueline.
Yeah.
One slightly disappointing half cheese.
Yeah, mine doesn't have Jesus on it though.
No cheeses on this
But
one.
are you drunk when you eat it and it's cold?
No,
Ashton would never.
I would never. No. See, okay. I read the Hitman one.
Mm-hmm. How to... What?
A Hitman.
A Hitman's Guide to Making Friends and Finding Love.
Yeah.
It's the Hitman's Guide series, because there's a second one, too.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
See, I read that, so
Yeah, I think... And you talked about it briefly, I think.
yeah, and I was
It
amused
stuck.
by it, and
Yeah.
I was actually amused by that more than I was amused by this one.
Okay.
But because I read that one, I didn't find the comedy in this one as refreshing, I guess.
So was it like very similar?
Yeah, it was old
Okay.
hat to me. It was
Yeah.
just like, oh, okay, obviously this is what they're gonna do.
Because like Finn is the cheekiest boy.
Oh yeah, Chin
He's
ain't got
just so
nothing
off
on
the cuff.
Leland.
Yeah, he's off the cuff and just like, yeah, he's just funny.
Yeah. So, but it wasn't like. I feel like this book would be more effective if you weren't exposed to the author's writing in that like that whimsical kind of cheeky attitude. Like for me, it was just like, oh, it's another
More
one.
of the same sort of
Yeah,
thing.
kind of thing. So it wasn't like a blow me away, but it was still entertaining. So 3.5.
Cool. This is actually really hard for me to rate. And the reason I picked this book was almost to challenge myself because I really enjoyed this book. I really did. I love Finn. I really enjoy Marcus's character development. I like the story. It was fun. Everything about it was great. I love the intrigue. The ending, again, like to Jack's point, even very lackluster. But I'm like, it's also kind of, I don't know. It really made me want to read the second one, which I think was kind of the intent, especially at the end. Because you're like, oh my God, there's so much more shit that's going to happen. And like, to the point, like there's like 5 books in this series and they all revolve around the VRC.
And I think that was another part of my problem was like, I didn't want this to be a series. Like I wanted to know about the guy.
You wanted it a one and done?
Yeah, like I wanted a little bit more about the guy instead of it just being like, he's my little doll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. And I mean, like, she's introducing the universe.
Yeah.
And like building on it, I suppose, too. So like, you know, and there's a lot of kind of moving parts here because like this is a different, and this is the challenging part that I had because I have very particular views about vampires and these don't particularly meet the expectations.
At least they didn't sparkle.
Listen, and this is why I'm giving it like a little bit of a pass because like as offensive as you can get with the way people destroy vampires for me, this was not even in the top 5 of how bad people have destroyed vampires, so I can't be like too upset about it.
This is the skin of a
There's
This is the what?
skin of a. I forgot how the quote was.
is that a Twilight?
Yeah, this is the flesh of
the flesh of a killer or something.
killer. That's what it is.
I haven't even seen the books, and I know, or read the books rather.
That one.
So I really want to give it a 4, but like I'm gonna give it a 4. I'm
What-
gonna be nice to the book and give it a 4.
What I'm getting from what you're saying is it would be easier to rate it if you read more of the books.
I think so, because like I think as a body of work, it really needs to be kind of looked at that way. And I was, and it's funny because when I read it the first time, I was really enthralled with it, and then like I fought against the like, okay, I'm just not gonna be upset with vampires about this one, but like I'm just not gonna be like I'm just gonna let it go, and it's fine. And I was able to do that because the book was kind of engaging and fun, and Finn was a great character, Mark was a great character, I love his dog, and all of those, and all of like just the relationship and like how cute they are together, and just I don't know, all of it was like distracting enough that it didn't bother me immensely. So like that was fine. It's fine. I'm gonna give it a 4. That was fine.
It was fine.
I'll give it a 4. I will say the writing, and I don't know if your Hitman's Guy was better, but like Alice Winters, yeah, she's a very repetitive writer.
Basic.
Yeah, very basic, and a lot of it is like I do this before I do that, and like when Jack read, I think he said the word finger like 3 times in 2 sentences.
We know how Ashton feels about that.
Yes. So
Especially when you listen to it.
yeah. Like
I
it's
read
very
this one.
obvious.
Oh,
No, I read this
it's
one.
so annoying.
Well, you
though.
just reading that bit, like I picked out like several words that were repeated a couple times, and it's just like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's, and that's like par for the course for the book, really. So,
I will say it wasn't super duper awkward to read though.
yeah, and even like the summary too, like there's something like it's very accessible, I will say, in that regard, and it's like it's not a super complicated, overt like detective book even where it's like this is hard to understand or follow or piece together. It's like it's all very cut and dry, and it's very like easy to read.
I will say though, because like when you get kind of basic books, when I'm reading them instead of listening to them, I find that they're really quick to get through. But this one, I didn't find like that it was as quick to get through. Like if it's an easy read for me, I can hammer it out. But this one I just felt, and I think it was maybe because it was repetitive, I didn't get it finished as quickly as I thought I would based on the size of the book. But I mean, it is what it is. It wasn't horrible. I didn't hate it. It's just, I feel like I probably, like I said, would have liked it better if I hadn't read Hitman's Guide first.
That's interesting. And I guess to point out too that like I am gonna go back and finish this series. I think I'm at least gonna read the second book because I need to know how this ends.
Yeah.
But like I also want Carson's book really bad, because I skimmed over this briefly. But Marcus has a sibling, and his sibling is like kind of like a vampire hunter.
A dick.
He's a dickhead, but I think he and Carson get together. Is the book, or he comes in later at some? Or no, sorry, he and
Did Gray?
no, fucking his sister.
Aria?
Yeah, Arya. I feel like they get together or something. Anyway, he comes in later, and I need to meet him. I need him in my life. So, there's just like you get these little nuggets.
I
throughout
need
the
murder
story.
babies. Give me all the murder babies.
Give me the murder babies.
Yeah, it does like it. I feel like you want to know more things, and that's why it's kind of.
It dropped the eggies.
It did. There's eggies everywhere, and I really want to scoop them up and eat them. No. So, yeah, I give it a 4 out of 5. So
Magic.
not bad. Alice Winters, fine author. Fine. The story was
Fine.
great. I'll continue reading it. It's just fun and fluffy and
Mine.
mine.
Fine.
Speaking of vampires, though, I did read another vampire book that I want to talk about briefly. It's actually by Gillian Graves, who we did Titan, a Daddy Dom Gargoyle romance.
You
way
read
back
that
when.
one?
We read that for the podcast.
No. You
But,
read.
yeah, so I read Blood Moon.
Yeah, you did.
And it's just a novella. It's like 112 pages,
Yeah,
113
it is.
pages. And so I'll read the summary real quick. Hazel knows exactly how to get over her bar's troubles, getting under something big, hairy, and monstrous at her coven's supernatural mixer. The hottest club in Los Angeles may be luring away her clientele, but for just one night, she is ditching her responsibilities and indulging her fantasies. But the relief the witch seeks looks nothing like what she expects. Fur-free and bearing fangs, Vlad is more than an anonymous one-night stand. He's the mind-reading vampire whose every success brings Hazel's bar one step closer to ruin. After a century away from L.A., Vlad has opened a club for humans and supernaturals alike. But the hot hookup brings him face to face with a curvy witch who stands between him and his dreams. Understanding her desires as well as her heartfelt ambitions means navigating a passion studded with pitfalls. Will mixing business and pleasure brew a delicious new future together, or leave them with one hell of a supernatural hangover? So Blood Moon is part of the Strange Moon series, which are the witches that you meet in Titan, which is the Romancing Her Stone series, I think it's called. Yeah. So, and we talked about that, I think it was like last season. And
It's one of the first books we did.
It was. And Hazel is one of the witches in that. Yeah. And she's like 6
Clever
feet tall.
name.
Anyway. Well, so I think her bar is called the Witch Hazel.
Yeah.
And she's a witch and she's Hazel. Makes sense. She's like 6 feet tall and she's like super curvy and she's got tattoos and she's got like pink hair with the asymmetrical haircut, and I'm digging everything about it. And she is into this like 6 foot tall fucking vampire, 6 foot plus vampire, Vlad, who's like a gorgeous man, and they're like rival bars across the road from each other. But they ended up like hooking up at this mixer and
By accident.
and like totally fall for each other. But then there's this like butting heads, and they're like getting at each other, even butting heads. Like she's casting like hexes and shit on his club, and he's like scaring off her patrons, and like, but behind it all, there's this like overarching enemy that they're both kind of fighting against. And anyways, it's really good.
The scene in the club with the fucking
The mirror?
mirrors.
Yes.
Yes.
So there's mirrors all over the club ceiling, and he puts her up on the bar and starts railing her, but you can't see vampires in mirrors in this one. So
you just see her
you
like
just see her getting railed by nothing.
there was something.
And it's fucking hot.
There was something about the plus-sized heroine watching herself spread open. Like, it was really just fucking fantastic.
It's funny because, like, I enjoyed Titan. It was good. And I remember rating Titan in such a way that, like, I really hope the next one's better. And then we get this book, which is in between the first and second book. The second book's not out yet. So this is like the 1.5 almost, but it's an offshoot kind of book. And this is what I wanted. And I was very impressed with it. And I want to read more of this series.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So that was Blood Moon by Gillian Graves. And I really enjoyed it. And it's a super quick read. It's like an evening.
Yeah.
The characters just like hit home for me. And like she's so, oh my God, she like owns herself so much. I fucking love it. Like it's just a good vibe.
that would be a funny scene to watch in a movie.
Or hot.
Or hot. And yeah, so Ash, you got anything else to talk about?
Not like haha funny, interesting funny.
Oh, okay. I read The Gentleman by Deanna Roman.
Have you seen the movie The Gentleman?
Yes.
One of my favorite movies.
This is drastically different. I've talked about her before. She wrote the book with the blind guy and the dog.
Oh, yeah. You made me get an ugly dog.
Did you let me get an ugly dog? So Cameron Fairway has a secret. Before he shares it with the world, he's determined to build the confidence he wants to live life as a gay man and experience. And the experience he'll need to snag Mr. Right. For that, he requires a mentor, someone experienced, someone with manners, someone discreet enough to be able to mix business and pleasure under the watchful eye of his father's empire, a gentleman. Peter Carver is without a doubt that man. Peter Carver has a problem. Pete doesn't mix business with pleasure because there is no pleasure in business. There's only order and discipline if you want to succeed. Then the boss's youngest son approaches him with a proposition that rattles every one of his sensibilities. Pete is determined to get to the bottom of the ploy because that's all it can be. Why else would the ruthless John Fairway's son proposition a straight man in his father's company? The apple can't fall far from the tree. This story contains the following elements: slow burn, hurt and comfort awakening, homophobic/racist parents, familial emotional abuse, obsessive compulsive disorder. This book is fucking delightful.
I love a character with OCD.
Is homophobic awakening like when you didn't know you were homophobic
Oh
and
my
then you're
God.
like, oh shit, my son is gay.
I'm pretty
now.
sure those two things are separate.
Yeah.
There's commas. Cameron thinks that Pete's gay because Pete has this hideous plant in his office that has like a rainbow pot, and he's like, yeah, that so when you're getting both of their perspectives, you're getting Cameron's perspective and then you're getting Pete's perspective, and that like his sister gave him the pot at a like mom and daughter pottery class, and that they paint it rainbow and gave it to him to like fuck with him because they know that he's so particular about things because Pete's got OCD.
Yeah.
So it's just this like everything that Cameron thinks that Pete's like super suave about, Pete is like fucking melting down inside. And it's just, it goes from being like like what is happening to like kind of endearing. And it was just, it was cute and it was nice. It was adorable. I just really fucking loved it.
I love when you get like very robust characters like that.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start describing like even the triggers in it, I'm just like, this is great. Like this is just gonna be so good.
and it's like the conflict isn't like Pete goes along with it and he's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm gay, I'll be your gentleman, like, and like he's experiencing all these things for the first time as well as Cameron, but Cameron thinks he's like an experienced gay man. And so he's like researching this shit and like
You love to see it.
like coming up with these things. And like at one point he like has a sex toy in his pocket and he like meets Cameron. He's like, here, and he gets Cameron to wear a butt plug. And then like he's like, have you been wearing this the whole time? He's like, yeah, you gave it to me and told me to wear it. So like the only time I check it out was like this time and this time. And he's like, oh, Cameron didn't get to have a prom, and Oh, and he was all like, because he was gay and he had to go to prom with a girl, and so like Pete plans this whole fucking like prom night at a goddamn hotel with like the flowers, and he shows up like, and when you're reading
If
it,
you
you're
wanted
like,
to, we will.
right? And you're reading it, you don't really realize what's going on because he's like shows up and like Pete's in a tux, and you're like, why the fuck is Pete in a tux? And then you realize he's throwing prom for Cameron. He's like, I don't really need this. I just want to get naked. And then he rails him against a mirror.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Rail people against mirrors. That needs to happen
But
more.
neither of them are vampires, so you can see both of them.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of part of it. Anyway, it was delightful. And like, I find that I kind of gravitate towards the author's writing. The next book out, I guess it's going to be a series, is called The Idiot. And it's Pete's older brother, Jesse. And Jesse is like super, super straight. And his best friend's in love with him.
Oh, it's
But-
like idiots to lovers.
Yeah, but then Jesse apparently follows. I was just reading the synopsis. Like Jesse follows him to a gay singles cruise or something. I don't know. I'm fucking living for it.
Amazing.
I can't wait until it comes out.
Well, that sounds great. Exciting. What was the author again?
Diana Roman,
Wonderful. Thank you, Ash.
I think. Yeah, Diana Roman.
Jacqueline, do you have any murder to talk about?
Not ones you've committed recently.
Oh, yeah. I mean, don't incriminate yourself on podcasts.
Oh, I would never.
I'll cut it out. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
I would never. I've been reading, well, listening to, but I guess we count it as reading. Gone Girl.
Oh,
Have
yeah.
you seen the movie or read the book?
Yeah,
Like, it's
yeah.
pretty old, but very good.
Cool. You've been listening to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. How's the narration on it?
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like very close to the movie, but it's been a long time since I've actually watched the movie. So I'm excited to finish the book and then watch the movie.
Is that the one where you see Ben Affleck's penis?
Possibly.
In the shower?
Maybe. Sounds like it is possible.
Okay.
Basically, she like fakes her own death and like disappears. And sets him up for it, frames him for
Nice.
it.
Classic.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're reading with murder, too.
Yeah.
That's great.
Reading with murder.
Yeah, you're not just listening to podcasts about murder. You're actually listening to books about murder.
Yeah,
That's good.
books and podcasts.
While you're murdering.
And watching.
Yeah, you're killing it.
Grey's Anatomy.
Watching it. As everyone else is. Yeah. Such a thing. Well, thanks for that, Jack. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
So next time we are back, it is sports ball season again. I think it's the hockey one. And we're talking about The Deal by Elle Kennedy. And I actually picked that up off the shelf at a bookstore, which is like Elle Kennedy is very accessible. She's a big author that, they keep in stock at most large bookstores. So
She writes the books.
she writes all the books and critically acclaimed. So go grab that one and give it a read. It's also on Kindle Unlimited in case you don't want to actually pay money for it. That's cool. Or, with your subscription. So I'll see you. Thanks for joining me for Murder and Vampires, friends. Dr. Ctaco and
Detective Guac.
Detective Guac. Thank you so much for joining
Thanks
me.
for reading a detective-y murdery book for me.
Of course.
Love
And,
it.
We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Queens of Spice podcast. You'll find us on Instagram and Twitter at Queens of Spice. Or if you want to send us an email, you can reach us at queensofspice@gmail.com.